Good afternoon. Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network. My name is Robert McNeely as we await President Trump to sign executive orders. So let's dive into what's happening on Truth Social in cut number 1 with the President of the United States talking about the Strait of Hormuz and that you can't get jet fuel because of that, like the United Kingdom, which refused to get involved in the decapitation of Iran. I have a suggestion for you. Number 1, buy the oil from the United States. We have plenty. And number 2, build up some delayed courage, go to the Strait and just take it. You'll have to start learning how to fight for yourself. The United States of America won't be there to help you anymore, just like you weren't there for America has been essentially decimated. And the hard part is done. So good luck getting your own oil. So that's kind of a big statement from President Trump there earlier today. And also in regards to France, and a number of these NATO countries, allies of the United States, who really have not been part of this Operation Epic Fury. Now, mind you, they are very close to Iran when it comes to ballistic missiles. London, England, only 4,000 kilometers from Tehran, Iran. Just to give you an idea, geographically speaking, Venezuela is 3,300 kilometers from Washington, D.C., our federal city. And cut number 2, France not really playing ball in this. The country of France would not let planes head to Israel loaded up with military supplies and fly over French country. France has been very unhelpful with respect to the butcher of Iran, who has successfully been eliminated. The United States will remember they're signed by the President of the United States, but there is some light at the end of the tunnel. We have, with cut number 3, the United Kingdom visiting the United States of America. Melania and I are pleased to announce that Their Majesties, the King and Queen of the United Kingdom, will visit the United States for a historic state visit from April 27th to the 30th, which will include a beautiful banquet dinner at the White House on the evening of April 28th. This momentous occasion will be even more special this year as we commemorate the 250th anniversary of our great country. I look forward to spending time with the King, whom I greatly respect. It will be terrific, and we are looking forward to that as well, Mr. President, as we invite our friends from across the pond. And now with an update on Peace Through Strength and Operation Epic Fury, Secretary Pete Hegseth and General Dan Raisin Kane, you might have seen it early this morning, their Pentagon briefing. Cut number 4, Secretary Hegseth really laying out the Peace Through Strength agenda.
As far as President Trump and boots on the ground, I don't understand why the base, which they have already, they understand, wouldn't have faith in his ability to execute on this. Look at his track record of pursuing peace through strength, America first outcomes. What he's simply saying, and it's exactly true, and I've said from this podium too, we're not going to foreclose any option. You can't fight and win a war if you tell your adversary what you are willing to do or what you are not willing to do, to include boots on the ground. Our adversary right now thinks there are 15 different ways we could come at them with boots on the ground. And guess what? There are. So if we needed to, we could execute those options on behalf of the President of the United States and this department. Or maybe we don't have to use them at all. Maybe negotiations work, or maybe there's a different approach. But the point is to be unpredictable in that. Certainly not let anybody know what you're willing to do or not do. But if anybody has internalized the lessons of Iraq and Afghanistan, as the first one, President Trump, to call them out for what they are, he's not going to repeat those lessons. And I think I've been very clear about that from the podium.
Secretary Hegseth went into detail with the Strait of Hormuz as well, where that stands with cut number 5.
The Strait of Hormuz, there are many more vessels flowing through today than there were, as the president has arranged. The president's been clear to Iran, open it for business, or we have options, and we certainly do. And when you look at what the chairman laid out with the Navy industrial base, with coastal cruise missiles, with UAVs, with counter mine capabilities, we've been focused from the beginning on attritting and defeating those capabilities and limiting their options. There's lots we're doing as well, some of which is known, some of which is not known, to set the conditions. And I think the president was clear this morning in his truth that there are countries around the world who ought to be prepared to step up on this critical waterway as well. It's not just the United States Navy. Last time I checked, there was supposed to be a big bad Royal Navy that could be prepared to do things like that as well. So he's pointing out this is an international waterway that we use less than most, in fact, dramatically less than most. So the world ought to pay attention to be prepared to stand up. President Trump's been willing to do the heavy lifting on behalf of the free world to address this threat of Iran. It's not just our problem set going forward, even though we have done the lion's share of preparation to ensure that that strait will be open, which is an outcome the president's been very clear on.
And as we continue with this press briefing that happened early this morning at 8 a.m. on the East Coast, negotiations do continue, and that is the ultimate goal, to have Iran come to the table. On
the talks, I can tell you, having been with Steve and Jared and the vice president and Marco and many others yesterday, they are very real. They are ongoing. They're active and I think gaining strength. And we appreciate that. As I said in my remarks, we would much prefer to get a deal. If Iran was willing to relinquish material they have and ambitions they have, open this, great. That's the goal. We don't want to have to do more militarily than we have to. But I didn't mean it flippantly when I said, in the meantime, we'll negotiate with bombs. Our job is to ensure that we compel Iran to realize that this new regime, this regime in charge, is in a better place if they make that deal. And so we'll continue. We're working hand in hand, but the primary effort is a deal. We want that deal to be accomplished if at all possible. If not, then we're prepared to continue.
And we are your go-to #1 live source here for political events at Right Side Broadcasting Network, also a live desk and the Rally Network. But we are viewer supported, so we really do rely on your generosity at rsbnetwork.com/donate. That's where you can send in those funds, as well as an address for check and money order. That's 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344. It's the loveliest village on the plains, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, Auburn, Alabama. RSBN viewer supported, and we are grateful for that in the new media to take on the truth and seek it and provide you with unbridled access to your 45th and 47th President of the United States, your 50th Vice President, and also our first and second ladies doing an amazing job, and then 119th Congress as we gear up for this midterm season. So much happening inside and outside of the Beltway. We also like to give you access to those press briefings like you're seeing right now as we're breaking down General Kane and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. But we cannot do it without the support of great people like Mike Lindell and mypillow.com/RSBN with a mattress and topper sale now as low as $99.99 plus free shipping on your entire order at mypillow.com/RSBN. Call today and do not delay. It's 800-836-7566. Promo code RSBN. Support Mike Lindell and Right Side Broadcasting Network by shopping now on over 2,000 available products at mypillow.com/RSBN. Easy to remember. Also made in America. All of these great products, including one of my favorites, the My Coffee, right here. I can smell it out of the bag. It's just one of the best that's out there. Free and fair trade coffee with Mike Lindell, again, running for governor of Minnesota with the Bill of Rights and the American flag proudly displayed. And that specialty coffee does not stop there. It's the Giza Dream Sheets from the Mediterranean made here in Minnesota, right here in America, to the My Slippers, My Pillow 1.0 and 2.0. But the big sale right now, that mattress and topper sale for as low as $99.99. Again, 800-836-7566, mypillow.com/RSBN, promo code RSBN. Thank you, Mike Lindell. Good luck in your race. Keep us posted what's going on there. And I have to go back to that website and buy some more MyPillow because it's one of the best out there. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history as we go to cut number 7 and the statements from General Raisin Kane. Dan Kane is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, working there alongside Secretary of War Pete Hegseth in Operation Epic Fury.
I'd like to continue my theme of highlighting the incredible contributions of Americans to our joint force. Today I want to talk a little bit about a different front line, a line that doesn't have bunkers or guard posts, but is just as critical to our nation's security, our National Assembly lines. Today I want to recognize a group of Americans who live at the beginning of our nation's combat power, the Americans who actually make our weapons, both inside our defense industrial base, but even more broadly inside our national industrial base. In every military option, we could not and cannot do our jobs without the men and women across our country who show up every day around the clock to a factory floor, a workshop, a laboratory, who build the weapons and capabilities we need to project American combat power at the time and place of our choosing. These great Americans, and I've had a chance to spend some time with them when I was in the private sector, are the core of American combat power. They're the machinists running high-tech CNC machines, cutting raw blocks of metal into incredibly precise parts. They're the assembly workers painstakingly taking a kit of parts and turning that into a complex guidance system or precision munition or a rocket motor or building a jet or submarine. Or they're quality assurance technicians who ensure that when a warfighter pulls a trigger, the weapon works every time. This can be and is tough and gritty work. It's not a quiet office and a desk with paper, and there's nothing wrong with that, but this is exactly the way this group of Americans likes it. I know this. I've seen it myself, and I remain deeply honored by that gift. It's often loud and dangerous work, demanding, requires absolute focus for hours at a time with deep commitment to get it right every single time. It's hands-on work where one uncaught mistake or deviation can put an American's life at risk. A single misplaced wire, a microscopic flaw in a weld, incorrectly calibrated sensor could mean the difference between mission success or mission failure. The difference is measured in the lives of our sons and daughters who we put out around the field and on the field of battle. We rely on and trust in these great Americans, and it's not just their manufacturing skill, it's their innovative minds and their entrepreneurial spirit. From those who build exquisite capabilities down to the mom and pop machine shops all over this great country, they live at the beginning of and the core of America's combat capability, constantly adapting, constantly improving, constantly learning. And there are examples of this throughout history and current days, to include building things like the F-117 stealth fighter, the B-2 stealth bomber, making our combat capability undetectable over the enemy, to today's B-21 and F-47. It's work like in the shipyards of the East Coast and Northeast side of the United States that go out and build America's nuclear submarines that allow us to patrol around the world at the time and place of our choosing. These innovators, these workers, these incredible Americans don't get the same glory as a fighter pilot returning to a carrier deck at night or an artilleryman sending rounds downrange, and yet they show up every single day, and without them, we could not do the work that we are tasked to do. 24/7, they build the tools that we need to do our business. The skill, the commitment, the patriotism, the dedication poured into every piece of combat capability and hardware is seen and felt out at the edge of the force, as the Secretary talked about those young bomb builders out in the desert that he had the chance to see. You can see it, you can feel it, and it's real, and we're deeply grateful. So to the American workforce out there, both inside our defense industrial base and in our national industrial base, thank you on behalf of the Joint Force. We carry the weapons that you build. We rely on the systems that you create, and the distance from that factory floor and that assembly line to the front line is incredibly short. Thank you. Keep it up. And to our adversaries out there, I remind you to beware of the American workforce.
We're honored to take a moment and celebrate one of our best sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. It is allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. 25% off of essential medications. This ends today, so be sure to do this before the end of your evening. 25% off. Use code RSBN25 for antibiotics, antivirals, hydrochloroquine, ivermectin, NAD+, methylene blue, and much, much, much more. Save on these big essential items. If you're someone who believes in the right to try, most favored nation status, also the Maha movement, and you're frustrated by a healthcare system that seems to really put you last, and they keep up with the red tape and the bureaucracy. This is the online pharmacy for you. They're an independent American pharmacy, not a chain, so it's not like the big box stores down the street from you and actually prescribe things like ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, NAD+, methylene blue, mebendazole, but also the nasal sprays and the Tamiflu. So important this time of year as we went from winter into springtime and COVID and flu and just general sickness going around. So good to have these on stock. Over 400 essential medications there for you for the medicine cabinet or to take on the road with you, like emergency medical kits. With spring here, allergies spike, and it's good to have that nasal spray amongst all of these other life-saving meds on hand. It goes to a U.S. licensed doctor for review. You don't need any insurance, just simply a pharmaceutical note that gets reviewed, sent right back to your door. So if you really appreciate convenience, this is the place for you. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, code RSBN25 for 25% off right now. Also, a big thank you to Birch Gold, our friends over there. I have the free gold kit right here. So this is the guide that can help you decide if you want to diversify on IRAs, 401ks, and much, much more. You know, the dollar is going down. As I look through this right now, you have people like Ben Shapiro, Stephen Bannon, Dr. Ron Paul, Clay, and Buck from That Outkick, a wonderful outlet. The Buck Sexton Show as well, really diving into endorsing why they're the best in the business. If you want diversification and privacy, hedge fund information is all right here for you in this nifty guide where you can call 800-355-2116, birchgold.com. It's all right there for you. Also text Trump to 989898 for the best in the business. We have Operation Epic Fury happening, uncertainty across the world, paper money failing, and as the dollar is going down, gold skyrocketing up 700% in 2 decades. So what are you to do with crypto on the horizon, other digital currencies, to, again, a dollar that is not as strong as it was in the past? Diversification is the key. And find out here at Birch Gold Group how you can get that free info kit that I'm holding right here by texting Trump to 989898. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history as we continue to dive into what's taking place today. And General Raisin Kane, joined by Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, to detail what is happening overseas with Operation Epic Fury. And even with the negotiations ongoing, even the hope on the horizon, strikes continue with cut number 8.
Together, we continue to deliver precision strikes against key manufacturing nodes, component storage sites, research facilities deep within Iranian territory. And over the past 30 days, we've struck more than 11,000 targets. Given the increase in air superiority, we've successfully started to conduct the first overland B-52 missions, which allow us, as we've said before, to continue to get on top of the enemy and, as the Secretary talked about, switch towards more and more dynamic targets, servicing mobile targets around the battle space. We've continued to do the work against Iran's missile, drone, and naval production facilities, and we continue the multi-domain pressure that we've talked about. Second, on the Navy front, we continue to assert dominance over the Iranian Navy. We remain focused on targeting their mine laying capability, their naval assets, and we've now, as I mentioned briefly last time, started to work attack helicopters and other close air support assets into the naval domain. CENTCOM continues to identify and work against naval depots and storage areas. And we've taken out, again, more than 150 ships, including all Jamaran-class frigates inside their Navy. Third, we continue to prosecute our campaign against our defense industrial base at scale. This includes factories, warehouses, nuclear weapons research and development labs, and the associated infrastructure required for Iran to reconstitute its combat capability.
And Secretary of War Pete Hegseth continued with the press conference detailing now 1 month in to Operation Epic Fury.
On the battlefield, because of the latitude the president has given us, American firepower is only increasing. Iran's decreasing. We have more and more options, and they have less. Just 1 month in, only 1 month, we set the terms. The upcoming days will be decisive. Iran knows that, and there's almost nothing they can militarily do about it. Yes, they will still shoot some missiles, but we will shoot them down. Of note, the last 24 hours saw the lowest number of enemy missiles and drones fired by Iran. They will go underground, but we will find them. We recently destroyed another one of their command bunkers. Leaders forced to flee. No water, no power, no oxygen, no command and control. Their faith in their caves diminishing. The latest intel is clear out of CENTCOM. Our strikes are damaging the morale of the Iranian military, leading to widespread desertions, key personnel shortages, and causing frustrations amongst senior leaders. Just last night, we had 200 dynamic strikes alone. Dynamic strike is a strike where a pilot leaves, and during their flight, they get a new target set based on real-time intel given to them. A new launcher, a new location, a new troop formation. A dynamic target is one that changes while you're in the air because of improved intelligence. 200 dynamic strikes alone, in addition to the pre-planned targets. The video the president posted last night of Esfahan, an ammo depot struck by U.S. bombers. You see, you don't get to see many of those videos because, as a reminder, Iran has still shut off the internet to 99.9% of its population. But if Iran is wise, they will cut a deal. President Trump doesn't bluff, and he does not back down. You can ask Khomeini about that. The new Iranian regime should know that by now. This new regime, because regime change has occurred, should be wiser than the last. President Trump will make a deal he is willing, and the terms of the deal are known to them. If Iran is not willing, then the United States War Department will continue with even more intensity.
And with Secretary Hegseth continuing, we know he is a God-fearing man, believing deeply in faith and reason. We know how it's changed his life. He's been very forthright and open about it, as many have been in the cabinet. In fact, especially compared to the last administration, you see often these meetings opening in prayer, and people not only praying over the president, but members of the cabinet. We join in that in supporting our troops and praying for them on a regular basis, as the Secretary of War asked for everyone to do with cut number 10.
Standing here this morning in this briefing room, in my mind's eye, I'm actually looking out at the groups I met this weekend. The pilots, the logisticians, the intel analysts, the targeters, the sustainers, the flight crews, the air defenders, the base security, those maintainers who we walked up at sunset with the chill in the air on the flight line. May God watch over all of them, each day and each night. May his almighty and eternal arms of providence stretch over them and protect them and bring them peace. In the name of Jesus Christ, and amen.
We cannot do it without our great sponsors, angelpaste.com, one of the finest with the Miracle Cream. I have right here, I use this on a regular basis, and it's good all year round. You see right there, just a nice little bottle, and the story on the back, made in Spring, Texas, a great place right off the Gulf of America. What's nice about the Miracle Cream, non-GMO, no chemicals, so what you're putting on your body is actually healthy. Some of these skincare products or beauty products have filled with so many different ingredients that you may not recognize, and red dyes, blue dyes, and everything that Health and Human Services is trying to address in this administration. The orange option also fantastic this time of year. Vitamin C infused to help with combating sickness or even collagen effects. So great to get that one, as well as the natural facial spray. But visit all of their products at angelpaste.com, 10% off with code RSBN. They were so generous to send us gifts recently, a whole box full of them, and I'm enjoying that immensely. Thank you to angelpaste.com. Christian owned. They hire veterans, again, out of Spring, Texas, right there in the Houston Metroplex in the Lone Star State, right off the Gulf of America. one of the best places to work, live, and play. Thank you to angelpace.com. Again, 10% off with code RSBN. We're all about the Maha movement right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. So protect what matters most. Drink pure and live pure with code pure.com/RSBN. $250 off right now on the reverse osmosis leading machine with the Clearwave technology, taking out 99.9% of the impurities in your tap water. Very convenient, and also, look, it's no bigger than your coffee maker on your kitchen counter. What's really nice about this, too, if you're renting, you don't have to have all the pipes and the drills and the holes and a plumber come over, then risk losing your security deposit over making a mess. What you see is what you get, and the model displayed there, that water can get very hot, very cold, or lukewarm in a matter of moments. So if you enjoy tea, no longer waiting 5+ minutes for steeping the tea and making sure it gets hot on the stove. You have it literally instantly. And with all of those toxins in the water, scary to think about with the microplastics, also the agricultural runoff, to fluoride, something that RFK Jr. has been fighting his entire legal career and has been justified by the results that have been found, including JAMA Pediatrics, finding that children drinking from the tap on a regular basis can lose 2 or more points in their IQ. And with all that COVID learning loss, we can't risk any more. So do what's best for you and your family. covepure.com/RSBN, now $250 off. Really a life-saving machine for clear and pure water. Right there, covepure.com/RSBN. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history, as we are really focused on many different topics today, but especially that Pentagon briefing this morning and that visit that Secretary Hegseth spoke of. Yes, he took a weekend visit to see the troops and went into detail with cut number 11.
Well, over the weekend, I had the opportunity to visit our troops fighting in Operation Epic Fury. We were on the ground, in CENTCOM on Saturday for about half the day. For reasons of operational security, so those troops are not targeted, the places and bases will not be named. Suffice it to say, the trip was an honor. I had a chance to bear witness, and I witnessed the best of America. I witnessed warriors, a brotherhood of men and women, warriors all, active duty, guard, and reserve, united in their love for each other, their shared purpose, and their commitment to the mission. I witnessed sheer competency. I watched a private first class confidently calling out an enemy missile trajectory to a room full of officers. Everyone focused. The room was locked in. 2 enemy missiles successfully shot down. I spoke to Air Force and Navy pilots on the flight line, who every day both deliver bombs deep into Iran, but also shoot down drones defending their base. Many had just returned from the skies of Iran and Tehran. I put on a headset and spoke to one crew in the cockpit, locked and loaded, each and every day. I witnessed ingenuity, American ingenuity. I met the young Army officer who figured out how to neutralize maneuvering enemy missiles, saving countless lives. His commander confirmed that the whoops and cheers erupted in the Tactical Operations Center when his new approach was first successful. I met the Air Force intel analyst who refines target packages faster than the enemy can adapt. I actually gave him my card and told him to keep me posted on the ground truth. I did the same with his boss, a colonel with a heart the size of Texas and a beautiful deployment mustache to match. I witnessed lethality. I met a junior airman as the sun was going down and a chill was setting on the tarmac, who, when asked what they needed, she simply looked up at me with a sly smile on her face and said, "More bombs, sir, and bigger bombs. We will happily oblige her." I met the Army targeting team who found and sunk the pride and joy of the Iranian Navy, their fighting position plastered with images of sunken enemy ships. And I witnessed urgency. Right when we landed, another C-17 landed just minutes after us. And within 30 seconds of the aircraft coming to a full stop, a team on the ground pulled up and the cargo was being uploaded. Wartime speed. To a man and to a woman, on the ground, in the air, on the flight line, and in the talk, I heard, we want everything faster, higher op tempo, wartime speed. The feeling was the exact opposite of the rotational units year after year in the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan that we're so familiar with. In those wars, it was always about the next rotation, never knowing when the mission would end or exactly what the mission was, year after year. Not with epic fury. I witnessed urgency to finish the job, urgency to achieve mission success, not looking at the next rotation, only moving as fast as possible to win. I got a chance to troop the line, to witness firsthand what we already know is true. I spoke to all ranks and all services, none of whom knew we were coming. It was not rehearsed or scripted. Sometimes we just wandered. What I witnessed was motivation. It was sheer mission focus. It was the American warrior unleashed. It was the kind of warfighting American spirit that comes with a clear mission against a determined enemy. A crew chief we flew with summed it up nicely. He said, "It's been a busy few weeks, sir. Tough stuff. But I'm so honored to be called up. This fight is long overdue. We need to address it for our kids. We cannot pass the buck. Please thank the president from us." I heard that time and time again. I asked each young American, what do you need? And nobody said better equipment. Nobody said more comfortable living conditions. Nobody said send me home. Well, of course, eventually we want all those things. They do too. But what those Americans said to me, young and old, officer and NCO, male and female, black and white, was let's finish the mission. Get us even more bombs, bigger bombs, more targets. Let us finish this. In fact, Admiral Cooper noted this morning that the 3 Air Force captains shot down by Kuwaiti-friendly fire early in the fight, weeks ago. They never left the theater. All dropped bombs over Tehran last night. These men and women live the Iranian threat every day, incoming missiles and drones, and know what a world looks like, what the world would look like if Iran had the most dangerous weapons in the world, a nuclear weapon. As President Trump has said time and time again for years, and in this administration, Iran cannot have a nuclear bomb, and they won't. These troops, they want to finish this fight for their kids and their grandkids. This is about history. This is about legacy. Success matters. And because of this president and these Americans, we're closer than ever before to winning. President Trump is doing what no other president had the guts to do. Previous presidents were all talk. He's all action.
Thank you to Kalshi.com/RSBN as we await the president to sign executive orders. Some of the questions there trending on the political market right now: who will be that 2028 Republican nominee for president? Perhaps Vice President J.D. Vance? Or will it be Secretary of State Marco Rubio, surging in the CPAC polls from last week? There's also Senator Ted Cruz, who gave a riveting speech in his home star state of Texas in Grapevine, right outside of the big Dallas. We love that metro area. It's a gorgeous place to live, work, and play. In addition to those questions, music, sports, culture, and much more. Who is in the Final Four for you? How are your brackets doing? My Illini, unbelievable. They're in the Final Four. First time in over 20 years. Excited to see the results of that come the weekend in this very holy week that we'll celebrate as Christians, marking the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, in the penultimate of his mission, re-entering Jerusalem. So all of these types of questions really at Kalshi. So you might as well trade and bet on what's exciting in America today, especially who will be that 2028 Republican nominee for president trade on those most important events, scan that QR code now, kalshi.com/RSBN. You can also go to Rumble Wallet. And what's great about Kalshi and Rumble Wallet is the fact that you can use wallet.rumble.com, sign up there, and actually trade those bets together at kalshi.com/RSBN. So accompanying together these two great sponsors. Tip your favorite creators with crypto, Tether Gold, Bitcoin, and you can do that by downloading it for free. The Google Play Store or the App Store. Free speech meets financial freedom at Rumble Wallet, wallet.rumble.com. We know this great Rumble, the response to those thrown off their free speech violated from just a few years ago, including President Trump when he was kicked off of Facebook and Twitter before it was X. So they really deserve our support in fighting for free speech online and within your savings and your bank account. Because the sad truth is, people who have had that wrong opinion, who have been on the right side of history, we've seen how the lights have been turned off for their bank accounts by big corporate banks and entities with the click of a button. It's just wrong. It's quite frankly evil. And at Rumble Wallet, they're focused on making sure your savings are protected. What's so amazing about this wallet is the fact that Rumble itself cannot break into it. Once it's yours for you and your family to do with your savings what you wish to do, as it should be in a free society. Wallet.rumble.com. Get it on the Google Play Store or the App Store right now, as we are covering the latest from the Trump White House. And the president expected to sign executive orders at 5 Eastern. Stick with us for unbridled coverage to your president, your vice president, the 119th Congress, and the most up-to-date information happening inside and outside of the Beltway right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. If you're just joining us, we were covering earlier the Pentagon briefing by Secretary Pete Hegseth, General Raisin Kane, and reporters there just across the Potomac. But another story that's really been grieving America, Sheridan Gorman, this 18-year-old from Loyola University in Chicago, shot in the back as she was running away from an illegal alien alleged of murdering her in cold blood. Because of the policies of an open border from the last administration and the continued sanctuary blue city policies and state policies of Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson and Governor J.B. Pritzker. And in case you missed it, the press secretary, the superstar Caroline Leavitt, detailing that not many mainstream outlets are even covering the story like we are here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. And she came with facts, receipts, and the timeline with cut number 12.
Sheridan Gorman, a young woman in Chicago, was shot and killed on the street walking with her friends outside of her university by an illegal alien from Venezuela who had no right to be here in the first place. And it's despicable that Democrats are currently defunding the department that's responsible for removing illegal aliens like that. And I would also add it's despicable that the lack of coverage of this young woman's case, of her life, and the way that it was tragically cut short. I saw a survey over the weekend that I'd like to bring to all of your attention. This is the media coverage of the case of Sheridan Gorman. You have ABC News has spent 1 minute and 19 seconds between 2 days when this case was first alerted. You have CBS 2 minutes and 1 second. You have NBC 23 seconds spent on the life of a young, beautiful American woman whose life was taken short by an illegal alien who should have never been here in the first place, when we are in the middle of a battle on Capitol Hill with a major political party, the Democrat Party, who wants to defund the agency that is responsible for protecting Americans.
The Media Research Center doing amazing work on detailing what Caroline was speaking on last week and the media bias that is out there. They're newsbusters diving deep into what's actually happening in the so-called mainstream arena. We're joined by Curtis Hoke of the amazing MRC as the managing editor, and here is that interview for you now. Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's Curtis Hoke of Newsbusters at the Media Research Center, a great group, serving as the managing editor there. Please share more, Curtis, about this Sheridan Gorman story. Such a sad, tragic case, completely ignored by mainstream media, an 18-year-old Loyola University student in Chicago. murdered by an illegal alien, and the mainstream media seems not to cover it at all.
Yeah, they're not particularly interested that much. They'd much rather do other things like cover the No Kings protests, as supposedly emblematic of the entire country's perception writ large. No, so I've been looking at the TV news coverage, the broadcast networks, which are ABC, CBS, and NBC, and then the cable networks, CNN and MS Now. We'll start with CNN and MS Now. 0 segments, 0 news reports on their shows since the murder has even happened way back about 2.5 weeks ago, nearly 2 weeks ago. And, you know, this is just, I mean, it's particularly heinous to see this. You think about, you add up all the hours of programming, well over 350 hours of news programming on CNN and MS Now, when they could have worked in a news report where these networks all have correspondents in Chicago, that they could have done a story on this. We didn't require them to step outside into icky flyover country or something like that. It's in their own backyard, one of their own cities, that they could have done something, and they chose not to do anything. The only time Sheridan Gorman's name has been mentioned or her case alluded to on those 2 networks was when they were carrying live programming of the president or Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt or House Speaker Mike Johnson. The only times anyone other than that in the live programming that it came up were 2 Republican guests on CNN, twice last week. Once, I believe, on Tuesday, Congressman Mike Lawler brought it up during a segment about the DHS shutdown to Casey Hunt, the host there, mentioning that Gorman was a constituent of his. And the other was former Trump campaign spokeswoman Caroline Sunshine in a debate also about the DHS shutdown, talked about why we need to fund immigration enforcement. But on both occasions, the host did not engage. They didn't say her name. So you could say it doesn't really count. Now, the broadcast networks, 3 minutes and 43 seconds since it had been determined that the suspect in this case was a dangerous illegal alien from Venezuela, stricken with tuberculosis and a long criminal record, including shoplifting, which he had been released on by Chicago's soft on crime policies. You know, numerous other people have said, and Caroline Leavitt said at the briefing yesterday, what is her life worth to these people? It sure seems like not a lot. And this is the kind of thing that, lastly, think about this. If she were a white college student, a beauty queen, murdered by a white male who tracked her down and attacked her in the woods, 2020, 48 hours, Dateline would be all over this. Lifetime would be looking to make a movie about it, but because an illegal immigrant is the suspect in this case, they don't care.
Really remarkable. And government, Curtis, I think exists. I think it's very clear in our founding documents for the safety and security of our citizens, our residents, and at the federal level, of course, it's the military, going down the state and local level, our brave police officers. And this really is something that is astounding because Governor J.B. Pritzker going on shows like Jimmy Kimmel wearing a bulletproof vest, talking about the chaos of Chicago and out on the lakefront, even his own campaign commercials, walking along the lakefront, surrounded by his security team. The height of hypocrisy is astounding.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad you brought up that last point about Governor Pritzker, that he had made this kind of condescending video a number of months ago, pretending to do exercise along one of the piers in Chicago to mock this notion that Chicago is dangerous, that there was no one around him within the shot of the camera, as if to suggest, you know, anything that the president said or anyone says about Chicago being dangerous is completely misguided and it's disinformation, etc. You know, now, unfortunately, with Sheridan Gorman's case, we know that it is not the case. And obviously, J.B. Pritzker has the luxury of state police going with him at each and every turn. And for these networks, it just goes to show basic priorities, that they're not willing to engage in the very basic kinds of crime stories that are around them, the kind of good journalism, basic journalism, actually, that especially local news does, the world around you, outside your door, what is going on, the weather, the traffic, the crime, and you're not even doing that. The national media covering and should be covering what's going on in one of America's largest cities. Even though lots of people have left Chicago, it is still, like it or not, one of the biggest cities in the country. So I think people should be interested in that kind of thing. And then where you started your point too is even more libertarian-leaning viewers out there, you would concede, I think, that even government at its smallest level, conceptually, should be about local policing the world around you. And this is a case where local law enforcement and the criminal justice system failed, and this is where the media should come in. If you want to regain trust in the media, cover more stories like this.
And no question that MRC doing just that, especially with Newsbusters. So we're grateful for your work, Curtis, as you look to the founding documents, look to the Federalist Papers, and that rule of law that unites this constitutional republic, now close to 250 years young, really coming from that of a good and moral people. That's what binds us together. But with our disagreements, yes, that rule of law to protect and unite us all. Now, to put your political hat on for just a moment, because we're in the media, we watch all of these trends. You have a serious situation here with a governor like J.B. Pritzker that has been asleep at the wheel. First question, why do you think that he won't want to reach out to the White House? Because you've seen success in Memphis, Tennessee with a Democrat mayor and the state government of Tennessee coming together with the federal government to clean up that city. Washington, D.C. itself so much safer now since the feds got involved. Why will Illinois and Chicago simply turn its back, including Mayor Brandon Johnson, on what President Trump has said openly? I will work with anyone to make sure safety happens in America.
Well, point number one, Brandon Johnson spoke to the media. I believe it was MS Now, if not, it was just pool spray, on Saturday at the No Kings rally. And he made this point that we need to protect our immigrant community from Donald Trump, that was a very important priority of his administration. Rancorous hypocrisy considering what had gone on in his city vis-a-vis Sheridan Gorman. That's point number one. Number two, J.B. Pritzker's inaction, which is in large part due to TDS. I think that is the symptom and the cause of why the left has such an aversion to public safety in this era, is because they hate the president so much. They hate him more than pretty much anything else, more than public safety measures. And that could lead to some bad, dangerous consequences for J.B. Pritzker concerning his presidential ambitions, because you do have people like Rahm Emanuel who are looking to run in 2028 as well and muck things up on the debate stage, where they might not win, but they're definitely going to make life very difficult for them, much the same way that Tulsi Gabbard courageously nuked the presidential chances of Kamala Harris in 2020. When talking about all of her racial shenanigans and TDS that was going on there at that time. And I just have to say that, yeah, when it comes to D.C., this is something that I think the Democrats, the left, and the media will look back on. It's something that they got wrong. I see this similarly to how you start to see this on the left in education. You have people, Democrats like Colorado's Jared Polis, that have come around and said, well, the left's way of thinking, while it still has the union still have a stranglehold on the party, was wrong for a long time, and we need to support choice in education. And I have a feeling that, as time goes on, I think more Democrats may see that kind of way of thinking, that, hey, we were wrong about this, and there are people in our party that were wrong, and we need to usher them out, that even if it's a losing battle, we need to point out what's going on here. And obviously that allows the conservatives and Trump supporters and MAGA to come right up the middle, because the right is entirely unified. For all of our disagreements on the right about foreign policy in particular right now, when it comes to public safety, that is something where the right is in lockstep, and arguably, probably at its core, the number one thing that President Trump identified when he came down the golden escalator in 2015, immigration and public safety.
You read my mind as a follow-up, Curtis. Rahm Emanuel releasing that 6-point plan in 2026 to defeat Republicans. I read through it. It's pretty smart. He wants to have literally a temperature guide as to your 401k potentially plummeting as a result of this Iran conflict and Operation Epic Fury. Does he stand a chance as the dark horse as we see people like Pritzker and Newsom really go off the rails, not only to the far left, but also extremely unpopular?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, unfortunately, in the Democrat Party, they seem to be just taking the temperature and trying to see who can suck up to the party base the most, because reminder that they are completely rejiggering their primary schedule. It's not going to be Iowa, or as the late great Rush Limbaugh said, the Hawkeye. It's not going to be that anymore. It's not going to necessarily be New Hampshire. It might be South Carolina, where kind of the Jim Clyburn vote is going to be the key there, or even Michigan, which obviously opens up a whole other can of worms in terms of appealing to the lowest common denominator. I see Rahm Emanuel serving, again, as more kind of a kamikaze candidate, maybe to take someone else out, or Chris Christie did in 2016 when he took out Marco Rubio. He nuked his own campaign in order to take someone else out. And so I think that's where I see Rahm Emanuel going with this. It'll definitely be interesting for the debate stage, whereas normally instead you would just have people like J.B. Pritzker and Gavin Newsom trying to one-up each other and who can go lower in terms of offering more far-left policies that aren't necessarily focused on their own voters, but focused on a small sliver of their base that really decides the elections in their state. So we shall see, but I hope that the left in 2028 has as big of a stage as possible. Just for those of us at Newsbusters, we're going to have all the more clips and fun moments to highlight for people, whereas if it were just a small field.
We are all here for it. Curtis Hoke, the managing editor of MRC's Newsbusters. Keep up the great work and come back and see us soon on the right side of history.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
And thank you to our sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, especially All Family Pharmacy. Just take a moment to look up this wonderful company. You could do so by scanning that QR code there. One of our most trusted sponsors here on the right side of history. If you're someone who believes in medical freedom and the MAHA movement, well, this is the pharmacy for you. Someone who could be frustrated with the healthcare system like many of us are. This is the response to that and the big stores and the big bureaucracy in our healthcare today. They want bureaucrats between you and your doctor. Washington, D.C. wants that. The lobbyists want that. But where does that leave us as a most favored nation right to try status? That puts insurance companies and government bureaucrats right in the middle of you and your doctor trying to make those important decisions. So this independent American pharmacy is focused on just that, family, at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Code RSBN25 for 25% off. Antibiotics to antivirals, also ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, NAD+, methylene blue, mebendazole, and Tamiflu, and nasal sprays, good for this time of year as the temperatures change very drastically. You don't want that happening necessarily, and those nasal sprays, very helpful this time of year. The pollen outside right now is out of control. So this is good to have with 400 generic medications off-label for you, ready to try and use. Also emergency medical kits that you could take on the road with you as you travel for spring break. But right now exclusively through the rest of today. It ends today, Tuesday, March 31st, 25% off with code RSBN25 at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. We'll walk you through how this works. No insurance, no issue, no hassle, no red tape, no bureaucracy. Just a pharmaceutical note for a U.S. licensed doctor on the other end to review that order and send it right back to you, the American patriot. It's common sense, and it's the way our medical system should work. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN for all of these life-saving essentials to have at home or to take on the road with you at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. For peace of mind in international disputes to monetary problems, the dollar getting weaker, diversify your savings with gold. Text Trump to 989898 and diversify your 401k or your IRA with Birch Gold Group, the best in the business. Did you know that gold has risen 700% in the past 2 decades? There's many reasons why Americans are diversifying outside of crypto and all the influences on our economy specifically. Also with properties, you need tangible metals outside of global currencies or even our domestic currency in the dollar, which is not doing too well right now. So see if a tax-sheltered retirement option is good for your IRA or 401k, perhaps both, whatever you so choose, with this nifty free info kit right here, 2026 information guide on gold from Birch Gold Group, and it is sponsored by some of our most trusted sponsors, from Ben Shapiro. You have Steve Bannon there, also Dr. Ron Paul, and Outkick's Buck Sexton and his friend Clay. They have a great show together. It's a fun one to watch. But it goes through all why precious metals matter to you and your portfolio. All of those amazing people endorse Birch Gold as the best in the business. Even Voltaire talked about paper money eventually returns to its intrinsic value of zero. But again, we could talk centuries of this, but this safe haven, 700% skyrocketing in the last 2 decades. Be sure you make it as part of your portfolio today. Text Trump to 989898. The Birch Gold Group, one of the best in the business, actually the best in the business. You should jump on that today. So thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history. As we jump back to the news of the day, and Congressman Jason Smith and colleagues in the House taking it to the road with cut number 13 to pitch the tax cuts and actually see what's happened over the course of the last calendar year since it got out of the House and the Senate, of course, signed by President Trump last year.
The One Big Beautiful Bill is for working families, by working families, and from working families. We took the committee on the road throughout the country, more than 30 different states, to hear directly from waiters and waitresses, from linemen who's been working overtime.
And what we did in this tax bill is bringing relief to middle America, bringing relief to working families, bringing relief to hardworking Americans.
No tax on tips.
No tax on overtime.
Enhanced standard deduction. Enhanced child tax credit.
Trump investment accounts.
Cementing the small business deduction.
There are numerous tax provisions that are pro-growth, that will grow the economy, grow paychecks for working families.
People who go to work every day trying to make ends meet. These are middle-class Americans.
Folks that are working overtime.
The struggling family.
Or that bartender, or that beautician or barber.
People doing the work they need to do.
Whether you work in the factory shop for Caterpillar or John Deere, or whether you're a row crop farmer.
People that are out there working in the restaurants.
Anybody that pays taxes is going to benefit from this bill.
They're going to get back money in their pocket.
What I hear from small businesses, especially farmers, now we can give an increase in wages to our employees.
The taxpayers were very hopeful once Trump was elected again because they know that he will keep his word.
President Trump is going out there to help the blue-collar worker, not the white-collar worker.
Thanks to the work and family tax cuts, you will have more money in your pocket.
Money in your pocket.
More money in your pocket.
Speaking of House Ways and Means, to the farmers who were at the White House last week, cut number 14, our farmers are against that Green New Scam that the last administration tried to implement against the American people.
I'd like to thank this administration for attacking the Green New Deal scam and making cattle great again.
Even though we're getting squeezed from both sides, this One Big Beautiful Bill that President Trump has put together is assisting us to keep farming and keeping our food supply safe here in the United States.
President Trump has been an unwavering ally of U.S. agriculture. Been very important to us. The One Big Beautiful Bill was such an important improvement to U.S. farm policy. It improved the reference prices, increased marketing funding for promoting markets overseas. So it's just a huge win for U.S. agriculture.
The cherry blossoms looking amazing in the background as Administrator Kelly Loeffler, also a former senator herself, hitting the road to visit Allentown, Pennsylvania, and the local congressman to discuss small business administration and that One Big Beautiful Bill and the tax relief happening as a result.
One bite, everybody knows the rules. Here in Pennsylvania with Congressman Ryan McKenzie, we toured 2 great small business manufacturers that are absolutely vital to our supply chain.
We've heard about the benefits of the working families tax cuts.
So number one for me is huge investments in equipment, bringing in new technology, writing it off completely. What I'm most excited about right now is the no tax on overtime.
And then Gigi jumped in and told us her favorite part is no tax on tips.
Without Congressman McKenzie's vote for the One Big Beautiful Bill, we would not have no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, Social Security, 100% expensing for the great factories. Thank you, Congressman, for fighting for this district. It's great to be here in Allentown, and we're going to continue our tour.
Awesome. Thanks for being here.
Gigi approved right there in Allentown, Pennsylvania, the great Commonwealth. A wonderful place to visit, and we love going there on the campaign trail, especially to see the rolling hills of Pennsylvania. And thank you to Kalshi.com/RSBN for sponsoring us here on the right side of history, the trending political market right now. Who will be that 2028 Republican nominee for president? Will it be J.D. Vance, your 50th vice president? How about your 72nd Secretary of State, the one who President Trump says has been the best of all time, the best in the business? Marco with roughly 4 or 5 jobs right now. Could he surge as he surged in that CPAC poll? Will it be Senator Ted Cruz of the great Lone Star State who gave a riveting speech at CPAC? Or perhaps the neocons will make an attempt to take back what was once theirs of the Republican Party, someone like a Nikki Haley? We will see. So make your trades and bets right now on the most important events, including March Madness and the Final Four, including my very own Fighting Illini of Champaign-Urbana, Illinois. Trade live now. Scan that QR code, Kalshi.com/RSBN for the most important events in all of American history. And what's neat about this, the Rumble Wallet, working directly with Kalshi, where you can tip your favorite creators on crypto with the Tether Gold, Bitcoin, but you can also make those trades and bets at Kalshi.com/RSBN if you get the Rumble Wallet. So here's how. Download for free the Google Play Store, the App Store, where free speech meets financial freedom. We really have to support our great Patriot friends at Rumble because they were there when big names, when you and I, so many countless people thrown off of social media simply for being on the wrong side of history, according to the leftist overlords. Well, things have changed in the last few years, but we do know that big banks and bureaucracies still turning people off and shutting down their bank accounts as a result of the opinions that they hold dear. Something so terrible to do, and the antithesis to American freedom in all of its forms. So Rumble Wallet not backing down, wallet.rumble.com, peacefully and patriotically being provided for you to have a secure wallet for your savings, for your commodities, everything to protect while you go out there and save this great country. What's amazing about this, Rumble cannot even break into its own wallet. So once it's yours, it's yours. It's the primo when it comes to online safety, and they highly prioritize that privacy. Again, download for free at the Google Play and the App Stores right now, where free speech meets financial freedom. It's Rumble Wallet, wallet.rumble.com. As we cover the latest from the Trump White House and the 119th Congress, President Trump expected to sign executive orders at happy hour, 5 o'clock on the East Coast, 2 o'clock on the West Coast. Stick with us right then. If you're just joining, I'm Robert McNeely. We're going through a whole host of what's taking place not only today, but the last several days inside and outside of the Beltway, including that Greek Independence Day celebration, cut number 16, in case you missed the B-roll of what happened behind the scenes at the White House.
Thank you.
Greek Independence Day, big deal. God bless America.
Indeed, to quote His Holiness, the Archbishop of America, God bless America. Indeed, and our Greek American friends and family, a wonderful culture and tradition, especially in the Orthodox Church, as they'll be celebrating Easter 1 week after the Western Church. So this is the holiest of holy times for Christian believers throughout the world as we prepare for these celebrations. And please keep in mind and pray for those in the Holy Land, especially during this time. As we saw this story, the Israeli government really cutting off access to those holy sites as a result of what's happening overseas with Operation Epic Fury. And Ambassador Mike Huckabee decrying the actions of Israeli police in that moment. Also, President Macron of France and Prime Minister Meloni of the great Italy, all very upset with those actions, but at the same time, safety at the forefront as the Archbishop there in Jerusalem not able to celebrate Palm Sunday, the first time in recent history and memory in years and years. So those who are either going over there on pilgrimage or that do live there, please keep them in your thoughts and prayers over this very holy season. Now, President Trump, in case you missed it, releasing details on the White House app where you can get all that access to what's happening at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Today, I'm pleased to announce that my administration is launching a brand new official White House app, giving front row access to all news from your favorite president, Donald J. Trump. That's me. It's available today on the Apple and Android app stores. You can watch all White House events, read all my executive orders, and keep track of all of our promises made, promises kept. That was a phrase that I used during the campaign, and it's very true. In fact, I actually kept more promises than I even talked about. We did much more than I said we were going to do. Every American should expect their government to have transparency, and the Trump administration is the most transparent in history. That is for sure. No one knew that Sleepy Joe Biden was doing. We had no idea what that guy was doing. The good news is he had no idea either. But my administration is inviting all Americans to join us on this mission to make America great again. I believe it has to be the most important, powerful phrase in the history of politics. Make America great again. And we have made America great again. Now we want to keep it great. So download the new White House app today. Thank you very much. You have done a great job. We appreciate it. Thank you.
And as we recapped earlier, the farmers and ranchers joining President Trump at the White House on Friday, and the president speaking their praises right there on the South Lawn.
Hi, I'm Granny.
And I'm Gatlin Didier, and we just want to say thank you, President Trump, for having us to the White House to celebrate agriculture, regulation, and product of the USA labeling. We're very excited about that.
I'm Natalie Kaborik. I am a cattle rancher from Nebraska, and I'm so excited to be here in D.C. this week. It's a really big week for farmers and ranchers across the nation. We created an act with more integrity around the product of the USA labeling, and it's really great to see that. Now consumers know when they're in the grocery store that that label means it was born, raised, and harvested here, which is a win for consumers, but also for us ranchers back home.
I'm Tara Vanderdusen, and I'm a dairy farmer from New Mexico. And I just want to say, on behalf of dairy farmers across the country, thank you to President Trump for passing the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act. That was such a big win, not only for dairy farmers, but for school-aged children across the country to get access to whole milk in their school lunches.
Jeremiah Fott, Pennsylvania Farm Bureau. President Trump, thank you for having us all out here to the White House. I specifically appreciate your deregulatory stance, cutting red flags for farmers.
I'm Amy France from Scott City, Kansas. I'm the chairwoman of National Sorghum Producers. President Trump, thank you so much for realizing the urgency. Trade is important for every American farmer. The previous administration did nothing, but you've stepped up with speed and focus.
I'm John Bolts from Yuma, Arizona, and where I farm is right in the shadow of the border wall, right along the border. So border security is a big deal for those of us farming and ranching in southern Arizona. Really appreciate the efforts there. Also appreciate the efforts to keep agriculture supplied with labor.
International disputes. We have Operation Epic Fury, a rising national debt, digital currency. What are you to do when it comes to your savings? Well, the best in the business, Birch Gold Group, They're there for you with gold, silver, tangible metals that you can diversify by texting Trump to 989898. The simple fact of the matter is gold rising 700% in the last 2 decades. So diversifying your IRA or 401k with a free info kit from Birch Gold may be that first really big good step. More than any other commodity on earth, gold thrives during uncertainty. And with a tax-sheltered retirement plan, you might be able to weather the storm that's inevitable as the dollar continues to go down. I have the nifty information kit right here from Birch Gold Group with many of its great sponsors, from Ben Shapiro to Steve Bannon, Dr. Ron Paul, and of course Buck Sexton, Clay Travis from Outkick, as well as the Buck and Clay Show on their streaming services there. They took the spot of the late, great Rush Limbaugh. We're on such a lineage and shoulders of amazing people working so hard to get the truth out there, especially when it comes to precious metals. As I look through this, diversification and an increasing demand really are the response to a decreasing supply of that paper money. So that gold and silver, those metals can make a vast difference. And central bank reserves, that's what's so interesting here. They're actually buying up gold. You can see it from this chart. The light kind of shines it out there. But gold versus U.S. government debt, there's a reason why governments are purchasing gold at a rapid rate more than ever before. And even why places like JP Morgan, big banks, hoarding silver. Why is that? It's because it continues to go up in value. Physical gold being the safest haven for that. So diversify now your IRA and 401k in gold IRAs for that tax-sheltered retirement by texting Trump to 989898. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history, as we're also grateful for allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Today's a big day. It's Tuesday, March 31st. The last day to take advantage of code RSBN25 and 25% off. If you're someone who believes in the MAHA movement, in the right to try, and most favored nation status, well, this is the place for you to get away from the big houses and the places that simply don't prescribe things like ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, methylene blue, NAD+, mebendazole, and much, much more, including antibiotics, antivirals, nasal sprays, Tamiflu, and emergency medical kits, so important this time of year. They don't want compromise between the bureaucrats and the big government entities going after you, the patient. They'd rather take that middleman out. It's not a chain. It's a direct access family pharmacy that wants to bring you life-saving pharmaceuticals, generic, off-label, and affordable to your front door. So if you don't have insurance, it's no red tape and no bureaucracy, as mentioned before. Simply a pharmaceutical note for a U.S. licensed doctor on the other end to review that order and send it right back to your door. So this is great for people who also value convenience, as well as who believe in that right to try. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. 25% off the essentials, code RSBN25. Scan that QR code there. And thank you to All Family Pharmacy for sponsoring us on the right side of history. And so much of this is about the future of our politics, the future of our country, and something that we should not fear but embrace. With cut number 19 and President Trump explaining that fearing the future is really not an option, but rather embracing it and looking towards this golden age.
America is ending the threat posed by this radical regime, decimating Iran's capabilities with Operation Epic Fury, something that nobody's ever seen anything quite like it. We have the most powerful military in the world. In the meantime, the conflict in Iran also makes it absolutely vital for the radical left Democrats in Congress to immediately end their dangerous shutdown of our Department of Homeland Security. For 42 days, they've tried to completely eliminate funding for the number one duty of government, which is keeping America safe. They want to have our borders be open again. Over the past 14 months, the Trump administration has achieved perhaps the most dramatic one-year turnaround of any nation in all of history. Our country is prospering again. Our economy is booming again, and America is respected again all over the world, perhaps like never before. And in America, we don't fear the future, we invent the future.
And President Trump not only thrilled with what happened that Friday evening at the FII International event with Saudi partners when it comes to banking and investments and also dealing with Operation Epic Fury. But again, speaking at that 250 years of agriculture, as we saw the highlights of these farmers and ranchers against the Green New scam, also thanking President Trump for signing into executive order the right to have whole, real milk as his administration working to get real food on the tables of Americans. President Trump having a ball out there on the South Lawn.
Golden age of American agriculture is right here and right now, and I'm thrilled to welcome all of you to the South Lawn for the single largest gathering of American farmers that the White House has ever seen.
Super honored to be here at the White House and grateful to Trump and the administration for allowing me to come and represent the farmers of this great nation.
We are celebrating 250 years of agriculture in this country, and we're excited for the future. There's a lot more agriculture and a lot more advancements to come.
To be an American farmer, to be supported at this level by our president, I can't thank him enough.
No one has stood more proudly, more strongly, more courageously for this man, this transformational president at this moment in our country's history than you all, our farmers and ranchers.
We really appreciate this event. It's good to see agriculture being representative here at the White House.
My husband and I, as first-generation ranchers, are putting in the work to make sure that our ranch becomes a multi-generation ranch.
We work so hard to keep the ranch in the family and the family in the ranch, and you've helped us do that.
Thank you so much, President Trump, for having us here at the White House today. It's such an honor.
Speaking of health and all-around safety, we had the opportunity to speak to Dr. Evan Nadler, a former surgeon who's running a great group and a team to focus on a number of different things, how the government coincides with this process, the FDA, and even those basics of getting back to a good amount of sleep and quality sleep, also getting up early, getting that sun on your face, of course, going to the gym and eating good, whole, organic foods. He joined us earlier to discuss a number of different topics. Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's Dr. Evan Nadler, founder of ProCare Consultants, a former co-director of the Children's Obesity Program at Children's National Hospital. And being a surgeon, Dr. Nadler, can we talk about pediatrics right now? Are we in a good place in this country when it comes to overall health, but also the health of our children?
Well, that's, first of all, thanks for having me. Second of all, it's a loaded question. Are we ever really in a good place with overall health for adults or children? Because we're always fighting a new battle every day. But what I would say is that there's a lot of, I think, confusion right now, in part because people have lost trust in the medical community. So they're seeking outside opinions or online resources or, frankly, social media influencers to get their information. And so I think we're at a time where there's, again, some mistrust in the medical profession, and the messaging coming from our federal government, frankly, is somewhat conflicted. So I think people are a little bit lost, or at least looking for sources they can trust.
And how can we reach out to, first, the sources that are trustworthy, but also regain that trust between government, the medical world, and all of the above?
Right. So that's the million-dollar question. And I think it starts with transparency, right? I think in my career, taking care of patients, I've always tried to be very forthright with the pros and cons of every intervention or decision that's being made. I think in years past, there was a lot more paternalistic type of doctoring, where it was do what the doctor said. And I think today maybe there's a natural pendulum swing where people are more empowered because there's more information available that people can get on their own. So I think people need to, assess the source of whatever information they're getting, meaning who's it coming from, what are their credentials. Do they have any hidden agendas? Do they have any ties to industry or whatever? And then I think people need to sort of double check, ask more than one opinion. And again, from the provider side, I think it's really just important to work with your patients. There's a term that's called shared decision making that's been getting some airtime, which is important. And it's sort of how we've always, or at least I've always dealt with patients. Like, it's never my decision, it's our decision. And it's our family's decision since I took care of kids. But yeah, I think there's work to be done on really all fronts.
And we've had a very bad cold and flu season. There's no question about that. But these shots seem to be in limbo somewhat with the current administration. And where does COVID stand in all this as we now see a new strain? Of course, it seems to have evolved to be less threatening over the years, but nonetheless, perhaps on the minds of several people.
Yeah, and I think COVID, frankly, was a turning point, at least in my medical experience, where the mixture of politics and medicine sort of first came together. And so it's obviously a hot button issue for lots of people. I think again, the way I approach it with people, and when people ask me my opinion on, let's say, the recent COVID vaccine, I say, here are the pros and cons. And the new strain that's being talked about, this cicada strain, seems to be potentially not really impacted by previous infections or by the vaccine. Like, it may be avoiding both of those previous inoculations. And as you said, though, it also may be less severe when it causes disease. The flu season, we always get our flu vaccine based on whatever flu strain has hit other parts of the world first. And I think this year, again, it seems that the flu strain that's most common in the US is not really greatly impacted by the vaccines. So, I would tell people that doesn't mean you shouldn't get either vaccine if you want to. And again, it goes back to the shared decision making. Like, what are your other medical problems? How serious would it be if you got one of these diseases? What does your provider think? So again, I just try to provide, evidence-based, unbiased information to people. And I'm advocating for more physicians to do the same, because I think, going back to your previous question, that's how you gain trust. Don't tell people they have to do something, or they should do something. You can tell them, here are the benefits of what is being offered. Here are the downsides. Here are the real data that are available. Here's what we don't know. And, work together to make a decision that's, everybody's comfortable with.
And, how good is just the old school advice of really getting outside, that morning sun, eating right, drinking plenty of water, as well as sleep, play into all this in your experience as a surgeon?
Yeah, so sleep is that's the big underrated factor. I think most Americans probably don't get enough sleep, and many of us don't get enough quality sleep. And all those things are important and should be, we should all be exercising more. We should all be eating better. We should all get, some sunshine, although I don't want the skin cancer community to get up all in my face about recommending more sunshine. But the point is really that might be enough for some people, and it's important for probably all of us to some degree. But, if you have emphysema, let's say, or other lung conditions where it would be really dangerous to have an upper respiratory infection, that those suggestions that you have might not be enough, and you may be advised by your provider to do more. Although at my core, I'm sort of a libertarian at heart, and I do feel like people have the right to make whatever choice they want. I may not agree with it, may be against my medical advice, but at the end of the day, your life, your body, your choice.
There's been a kratom cases surging in the United States. Can you talk on that right now, in addition to this FDA push on peptides and probiotics? And are they being surveilled right now by the government, or even how is that all working? I'm very curious about this.
Yeah, so it's a super complicated topic, actually. And there's actually a distinction between supplements which are supposed to be natural, like kratom is, and then peptides, which are basically manufactured in a lab. And neither one of them are regulated the same. And there's been talk about decreasing the regulation on the peptides, and supplements aren't really well regulated currently. And so it goes back to one of your original questions, which is about medical mistrust. And the issue is that many of these peptides and supplements don't have great studies that have either documented their safety or their efficacy, how well they work. And so you end up in a situation where, you know, what works for one person may not work for another, and you can't really advise people well. Like if someone asked me, should I take creatine? I mean, I take creatine. It's supposed to help with cognitive decline. Do I know that it does? No. Do I know that it is supposed to have very few side effects? Yes. And so I've made the decision that there's a potential upside and not a great downside, so I take it. But some of the other supplements that are out there, like kratom, have some real downsides to them. And so every decision, medical or otherwise, wellness, which is somewhat different than medical, is a cost-benefit analysis. And so I think people, again, have to make their own, especially with a lot of those types of supplements and peptides. You know, they're going to have to make their own decision about whether the data are strong enough to support their use, and if they have any effect, and then what are the downsides if they do decide to take a peptide or a supplement.
Dr. Evan Nadler talking to us about what's happening here in America when it comes to the medical community and the government. Thanks for joining us on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and please come back with us soon because it's a very interesting topic and I'm very curious to see where it goes this year and beyond. Thank you for your time.
My pleasure. I'm happy to come back anytime.
Thank you to our sponsors here on Right Side Broadcasting Network as we await the president to sign an executive order to apparently crack down on mail-in balloting, according to Rapid Response. We'll be watching that there at the top of the hour. We want to take a moment to thank All Family Pharmacy, one of our most trusted sponsors here on the network. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN and code RSBN25 expiring today. Today is the last day. Take advantage of the 25% off with code RSBN25. Scan that QR code there now. If you're someone who believes in MAHA and really my body, my choice when it comes to this healthcare provider, antibiotics, antivirals, ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, NAD+, methylene blue, mebendazole, having access to the right to try and most favored nation status and off-label generics that are actually affordable. It's an amazing thought as insurers and big government bureaucrats usually work hand in foot to make it difficult for the patient as the middleman, but not with this independent allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. And right now exclusively for the RSBN viewers, as mentioned before, through today. So be sure to stock up on over 400 life-saving medications. RSBN25, 25% off right now at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. They also have Tamiflu and nasal sprays for the cold and flu season, but also with springtime comes all that pollen. It's ridiculous outside, but that's okay because the warmer temperatures coming about with that, as well as emergency medical kits you can take on the road with you. No insurance, no hassle, no red tape, no bureaucracy, simply a pharmaceutical note for that U.S. license-based doctor to review that order and send it back to your door. Very, very convenient there at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Today's the last day for 25% off. Code RSBN25. And speaking of MAHA, speaking of gut health, covepure.com/RSBN. So important to visit them and get $250 off right now of this truly life-saving machine. Their ClearWave technology removing 99.9% of the impurities out of your tap water. If you happen to rent, another great option, because what you see is what you get. No pipes and the plumber coming over to put into the wall and such. This is really a very efficient machine. And JAMA Pediatrics putting out a study that students drinking out of the tap on a regular basis lose 2 or more points in their IQ. So protect what matters most. We had all that COVID learning loss. We don't need any more. And you should be protected from microplastics and pesticides, agricultural runoff, to even medical residue that can get into the water system. You can also get very hot temperatures, very cold and lukewarm temperatures in an instant. So my tea drinkers out there, I think you might enjoy this amazing reverse osmosis machine. Drink Pure, Live Pure. It's codepure.com/RSBN. $250 off right now. Scan that QR code. As we also thank Kalshi.com/RSBN. At Kalshi, you can trend the political market right now. Trade and bet on the most important questions happening in America, like that 2028 nomination. What will happen on the Republican side? Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Senator Ted Cruz, Ambassador Nikki Haley, just some of the names, including Governor Ron DeSantis, who recently signed legislation to make Palm Beach International now the Donald J. Trump International Airport. This coinciding with news that Eric Trump releasing images of the future Donald J. Trump Presidential Library and Museum, that's center to be a skyscraper in the beautiful city of Miami. So with all of that happening, the opening of baseball and the Final Four happening this weekend, be sure to trade on sports, music, culture, politics, and more at Kalshi.com/RSBN. I'm not one much for polls, especially since 2016 and the biggest upset in American political history, perhaps since the Dewey Defeats Truman newspaper, where President Truman holding that up large from the Chicago Tribune, an embarrassing moment for the Tribune with a big smile on his face. Well, that was 2016 when all of the prognosticators and pollsters and all the people out there in the business said that Hillary Clinton had, a 90% chance of winning the presidential election? And we know how things went way back then. But the McLaughlin and Associates, this is a fantastic group to keep watch of, and where people actually stand on things. And it's President Trump's pollster, so he knows a thing or two about good polls. We can jump to number 24 and the tariffs poll that was recently showed there. President Trump's use of tariffs to reduce America's trade deficit, this being debuted at CPAC, or at the end of it by McLaughlin and Associates, to create a more fair playing field for American workers and business. 91% strongly approving of that right here in America. And strongly, in addition to that, 69%. So the somewhat to the completely unsure, even the disapprove or disapproving strongly, very, very low numbers, as you can see there. How about polling on Epic Fury in cut number 25 as well, with President Trump's decision to use military force in Iran to remove the Ayatollah and his terrorist regime from power. 89% strongly approving amongst that CPAC crowd there, and another strongly 70%, and even the somewhat to less, much, much, much smaller than that. And one more big poll on Venezuela, arresting the dictator Nicolas Maduro and removing him from power. Much support happening there for the President of the United States in those recent actions. So maybe there's a different narrative happening out there on the left side of history. But this group, if you're going to run for office, McLaughlin and Associates, perhaps one of the best out there to actually get the real data, that being from CPAC. And cut number 27, in case you missed it, the Be Best Foundation, led by First Lady Melania Trump, inviting those first ladies and other spouses to the White House, other world leaders from 45 countries, to tackle AI and protecting children in this ever-evolving world of ours.
45 of you have traveled from every corner of the planet to represent your nation as a part of this new coalition.
It's a great pleasure to be in Washington and to be part of such an historic event.
To give us this opportunity, a platform to discuss children in the digital era.
To promote the use of AI and advanced technologies that empower children to become innovators, creators, and leaders in the world of the future.
If we can come together collectively in a coalition like this, I believe the world will listen.
Technology must empower people. It must reduce, not increase, inequality.
This is courageous of her. We're experiencing something at a global level, and so we should really be moving forward together.
We can build the bridges necessary to ensure children in Malawi and elsewhere have access to tools they need to thrive.
Under the leadership of First Lady Melania Trump, technology is being shaped not as a force of risk or division, but as one of opportunity, protection, and hope.
The nations represented in this room reflect great human potential. Let's foster the future together.
And with so much technological advancement on the horizon, we are deeply grateful as well for the common sense sponsors behind this great network, and one being that of angelpaste.com. And you get 10% off right now with code RSBN. The miracle cream I use every day, right there from Spring, Texas, off the Gulf of America. And with that, the orange option, vitamin C infused. Both do not have any of these red dyes, these blue dyes, these numbers that you don't recognize, or names that when you look it up, you think twice about putting on your skin or anywhere near your body, including the natural facial spray to go paint the town red. Whether it's that first anniversary or 50th anniversary, angelpaste.com has you ready for beauty products for both men and women. 10% off right now, code RSBN. They're great patriots. They are Christians. They hire veterans, and they are based, again, out of Spring, Texas, in the Houston Metroplex, the Lone Star State. Experience the miracle that is angelpaste.com. We'd also like to thank allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Code RSBN25 for 25% off of your life-saving pharmaceuticals, antibiotics to antivirals, ivermectin, mebendazole, NAD+, hydrochloroquine, to methylene blue, and much, much more. Nasal sprays to Tamiflu, and also emergency medical kits. This is for the ones who support the MAHA movement and frustrated by the big bureaucracy of big pharma and big government coming together to be the middlemen of you and your doctor. It's unnecessary, as this is an independent family pharmacy committed to the benefit of you and your family and your respective future. Code RSBN25 right now. Scan that QR code for the right to try. Most favored nation status. And if you don't have insurance, there's no red tape and no hassle. Simply a pharmaceutical note needed for a U.S. licensed doctor to review that order and get that shipped right to your door. So if you enjoy convenience, you have access to 400 plus essential medications there that you could travel with as well during the spring break months, and as we celebrate the holiest of holy weeks here in America and abroad. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, 25% off your essentials going through today with code RSBN25. So as we get close to this executive order signing by the President of the United States, we can look towards that future with cut number 21, some ballroom photos of what will come to the East Wing, and that grand ballroom looking exquisite, 9,000 square feet in proximity. And with that, the executive mansion itself is 5,500 square feet. So this almost doubles that, and will look quite nice there at the White House. Of course, the Greco-Roman masonry that you see there, and those traditional columns that we've become used to in Greco-Roman architecture. It's really outstanding. I'm looking forward to how the president gets to host there, but it's going to be towards the end of that term, which is a day I don't want to think about, January 2029, and we can continue to work towards that future in the golden era. And for many presidents' administrations to come, no longer will you have tents set up outside for world leaders or even members of Congress and the citizens, the public, to walk through with your nice shoes and all of that mud. Gone are those days. The Trump era leaving its mark there at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, as the president is today on this Tuesday, March 31st, signing executive orders at the White House. We'll bring you there momentarily. And in the meantime, we'll take a quick commercial break here at the network for more sponsorships, but stick with us here and we'll be with you at the White House moments from now.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
You to the executive order signing there at the White House. We're covering the latest from the federal city, inside and outside, as some great news coming across those channels. PBI, Palm Beach International, will now be known as of July 1st, per the signing of Governor Ron DeSantis, as the Donald J. Trump International Airport. So where the president goes perhaps most often outside of Joint Base Andrews for his travels aboard Air Force One, right there in Palm Beach, outside of Mar-a-Lago. A wonderful place to live, work, and even raise a family down there in the free Sunshine State of Florida. Many Americans now calling that home, as CPAC announcing they'll be going to Florida next year as well, instead of Texas, in this competition between Texas and Florida to perhaps be the most conservative, or what I like to call common sense state, as the White House releasing an email about President Trump ending Democrats' transgender for everybody insanity. Now, 2 years ago today, the Biden administration desecrated the Easter Sunday message with a transgender message that elevated radical leftist ideology over faith, family, and biological truth. But this Easter season, the Trump administration celebrating a decisive victory, the swift and unrelenting dismantling of subversive woke policies that endangered children, ended women's rights, assaulted common sense, and dragged America toward moral and cultural decline. I mean, even RFK Jr. was speaking at CPAC with the great Mercedes Schlapp on this very topic about his uncle, Ted Kennedy, in the Senate. The liberal lion, as they referred to him as, actually wrote Title IX in that landmark legislation to pass women's rights in sports, to give them that access, especially to college sports. Where has the Democrat Party gone since? It's rather quite remarkable. Under President Trump, the era of government-sanctioned delusion is over. President Trump declared it the official policy of the United States government that there are only two immutable sexes, male and female. Biology teaches us this. President Trump banning federal funding, sponsorship, or promotion of the chemical and surgical mutilation of minors, protecting children from irreversible harm, and directing agencies to defund institutions engaged in these practices. Now, as a result, more than 36 health systems across the country, including Kaiser Permanente, Children's Hospital of Los Angeles, Children's Minnesota, Denver Health, Lurie Children's Hospital of Chicago, Stanford Medicine, and NYU Langone, and many others, announcing they are stopping suspending child mutilation programs across the board. Now, the Trump administration ended the un-American indoctrination of school children by terminating federal support for gender ideology and equality curricula, enforcing parental rights, and putting states on notice to remove such content or lose funding. President Trump ending the unfair, demeaning practice of forcing women to compete against biological men in sports, which resulted in both the NCAA and the International Olympic Committee, as well as multiple state high school athletics associations, to realign with biological reality. Now, the Department of War also focused on this as well, reinstating standards requiring service members to serve according to their biological sex, banned transgender individuals from military service when it conflicts with the readiness and cohesion of the units, and prohibiting taxpayer funds of sex change procedures, restoring the military's focus on excellence and not ideology. Now, the Department of Health and Human Services conducted a comprehensive review of the so-called gender-affirming care and confirming the lack of medical or scientific evidence supporting its irreversible effects on minors. The Trump administration, including across the Department of War, Department of Veterans Affairs, ceasing all funding for sex change surgeries relating to those procedures. Now, President Trump eliminating radical gender ideology from U.S. service academies and training programs. Also, POTUS directing enforcement to protect single-sex spaces designed for women and girls, including bathrooms, locker rooms, and shelters based on biological sex. Perhaps the most egregious offenses of this we saw in the Commonwealth of Virginia, where there were alleged rape cases in middle schools, where the school district, the school boards, even principals, and those you'd think would have the best interest of students, hiding it from the very parents. Just remarkable to see how that happened just a few short years ago. The Trump administration also axing billions of dollars in grants that had been used by states to perpetuate radical gender ideology and radical propaganda. The Trump administration ending the practice of allowing gender self-identification on federal documents, including passports, restoring biological sex as a sole basis of official records. Now, these bold actions have shattered years of Democrat extremism, rescuing a generation of children from irreversible harm. We've seen those who have gone back to reverse the damage done by these surgeries, and it's a horror story, to say the least. This reclaims America's commitment to fairness, science, and sanity. In the Trump administration, truth, strength, and moral clarity are once again guiding the nation forward. And today we'll have that signing of an executive order at the White House surrounding mail-in ballots and the securing of free and fair elections, something that's the cornerstone of this nation, with nearly 179 other countries requiring some form of photo ID to vote in their own elections, many of them accompanied with in-person balloting and no machines involved in the process as well. We should have that option. We should have the choice to do that, but also the security of showing that identification right there at the polls. So as we look forward to that executive signing at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, we continue to cover what is the latest going on in the Washington capital city as President Trump working overtime right there at the White House. To go back to True Social, in case you missed it earlier with cut number one, POTUS is talking about fuel. He's talking about the Strait of Hormuz and what's going on there in this ongoing dialogue and debate with a number of countries. All of those countries, in fact, they can't get jet fuel because of the Strait of Hormuz, like the United Kingdom, which refused to get involved in the decapitation of Iran. I have a suggestion for you. Number one, buy from the United States of America. We have plenty. And number two, build up some of the delayed courage, go to the Strait, and just take it. You'll have to start learning how to fight for yourself. The United States won't be there to help you anymore, just like you weren't there for us. And Iran has been essentially decimated. The hard part is done. Go get your own oil, signed there by President Trump. So we'll watch that very closely as that continues to develop with a month in now to Operation Epic Fury. Thank you to Birch Gold Group. You can text Trump to 989898 as the dollar going down. Gold skyrocketing 700% in the last 2 decades. So diversify your savings with gold. We have Ben Shapiro, Steve Bannon, Dr. Ron Paul, also Clay Travis, Buck Sexton, who have quite a great show, all supporting this amazing Birch Gold Group. And this free info kit, this is what you'll find. It's really short, not too wide, but you can also call their number, 800-355-2116. That's 800-355-2116, birchgold.com. You can learn how to diversify all of your savings with gold, silver, tangible metals that make a massive difference. As I look over, why is JP Morgan hoarding silver? A great question, as their wealth is skyrocketing. Geopolitical diversification from the threats that are abroad, and there are international disputes happening right now, Operation Epic Fury, global inflation and stagflation, of course, right here at home with the dollar getting less and less safe. So what are you to do as it devalues? Diversifying with gold, silver, and tangible metals, perhaps the safest, smartest thing you can do in 2026. For a tax-sheltered retirement option, unlike any other, it's Birch Gold Group. Diversify now, and what do you have to lose? Text Trump to 989898 and get that free info kit that I'm holding right here at Birch Gold Group. Thank you as well to Kalshi.com/RSBN. Trending political questions. Who will be the 2028 nominee for president on the Republican side of the aisle? Will that be the 50th Vice President, J.D. Vance, the 72nd Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, or United States Senator Ted Cruz with a great speech there at CPAC? Perhaps Governor Ron DeSantis, the free sunshine state of Florida, as we are looking at many lame duck governors, but they're full speed ahead here in the Southeast, as it's going to be a whole batch of new people in these midterm races. Or the neocons, where are they going to go? Are they going to try to make a comeback with people like Ambassador Nikki Haley? I guess we'll see what happens. But trade on the most important events, from Major League Baseball kicking off just late last week to the Final Four coming up this weekend. Kalshi.com/RSBN. Trade live now. Scan that QR code there and don't miss out on a second of any of the action at Kalshi.com/RSBN. And moments away, the President of the United States signed an executive order on these mail-in ballots and how to proceed forward with that in our elections, because we know over the course of the last few years, many people concerned right, left, and center of the results of countless elections. I had the opportunity to do a local story all the way up in Alaska when I was at KTUU, and there in my property, my place of residence, 3 unmarked ballots arrived, a couple of them with the former owners or residents of that address. And we did a whole story on that with an election clerk who was really receiving heat from right, left, and center on the integrity of the elections in the municipality. We should know who wins, who loses, and have those results counted relatively quickly. It's 2026 after all. And by gosh, we should be able to show that ID, unlike a number of states that don't do that. Isn't it ironic that in 2024, President Trump winning 31 states, that required some form of voter identification? The other 19, including territories or even the District of Columbia, Harris successful in those races, but no voter ID. Maybe an interesting coincidence, but I'll let you, the viewers, decide on that. With cut number 2, President Trump taking a true social about our friends over in France, but their lack of action on Operation Epic Fury. The country of France would not let planes headed to Israel loaded up with military supplies fly over French territory. France has been very unhelpful with respect to the butcher of Iran, who has been successfully eliminated. The United States will remember, and the president signing that right there. And again, to remind everyone, these NATO countries are within striking distance of the ballistic artillery missiles coming from the Iranian regime. Although it has been decimated, some of those missiles getting out to hit hospitals, embassies, and even Israel. And as a result of this, for better or for worse, really for worse for everybody, as a chorus, an echo of the ambassador Mike Huckabee, President Macron of France, Prime Minister Meloni of Italy, all decrying the shutting down of holy sites for Holy Week and this Easter celebration, as Christian pilgrims flocked to that area, and the Archbishop Salvoni overseas really was not allowed to participate in Mass on Palm Sunday. Really a sad sight to see as a result of these operations. So we hope and pray for our troops and all in harm's way overseas, as no question that generations of people will be safer as a result of the removal of the Ayatollah and the regime that's currently in place. But on a brighter note, we have cut number 3, the UK King and His Majesty and Her Majesty, the Queen Camilla, visiting the United States at the end of the month. Melania and I pleased to announce that Their Majesties the King and Queen of the United Kingdom will visit the United States for a historic visit April 27th through the 30th, which will include a beautiful banquet dinner at the White House on the evening of April 28th. This momentous occasion will be even more special this year as we commemorate the 250th anniversary of our great country. I look forward to spending time with the King, whom I greatly respect. It will be terrific. Signed by the President of the United States. We look forward to that event as well, as President Trump has had now 2 state dinners, once with his mother, Her Majesty, the late, great Queen Elizabeth II, and now the most recent state dinner just last year, really in a star-studded hall, and complimentary toast to once rivals and once enemies, now 2 great friends, the oldest of friends, in fact, in this Western world, as we continue to defend with those in the United Kingdom across the pond. And we know domestically how things have changed there. And UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, President Trump really likes him, but he said, look, he's a liberal. He thinks differently. And we know that speech laws and really the freedom of speech as we know it here in America, not really enshrined at all by Magna Carta and those immortal documents from the 13th century that led way to our nation and the constitutional republic, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, inspiring our founders and the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence. But things are different in other countries. Even those English-speaking countries, as we saw with COVID, some of those lockdowns, even worse in the United Kingdom, to Canada, to Australia, New Zealand, and some of our blue cities and states right here stateside. So liberty is just one generation away from extinction. Freedom itself, as Ronald Reagan reminded us, and that's why we have to be ever so vigilant all the time and pass it down to our posterity, not in the bloodstream, but we have to teach them each and every time that they are available and able to listen to it, because it's a precious thing that we have here. And let's make this another 250 years of glory as we are celebrating that in the golden era. Soon, moments from now, the executive order is being signed by the president right there at the White House. We'll take you there as soon as possible. In the meantime, we'll take a quick commercial break for those sponsors. Stick with us here. It's Right Side Broadcasting Network, your go-to for live political events, live desk, and your rally network right here on the right side of history.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Brightside Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Brightside Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Robert McNeely. We are getting ready to send you over to the White House, where the president will be signing executive orders, mostly seemingly focused on the mail-in balloting issue, according to Rapid Response. And in the meantime, if you have not caught earlier our broadcast over the last couple of hours, we can take you back to cut number 4 in Secretary Hegseth on the Peace Through Strength initiative as he joined General Dan Raisin Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, early this morning for a Pentagon briefing.
As far as President Trump and boots on the ground, I don't understand why the base, which they have already, they understand, wouldn't have faith in his ability to execute on this. Look at his track record of pursuing peace through strength, America first outcomes. What he's simply saying, and it's exactly true, and I've said from this podium too, we're not going to foreclose any option. You can't fight and win a war if you tell your adversary what you are willing to do or what you are not willing to do, to include boots on the ground. Our adversary right now thinks there are 15 different ways we could come at them with boots on the ground. And guess what? There are. So if we needed to, we could execute those options on behalf of the President of the United States and this department. Or maybe we don't have to use them at all. Maybe negotiations work, or maybe there's a different approach. But the point is to be unpredictable in that. Certainly not let anybody know what you're willing to do or not do. But if anybody has internalized the lessons of Iraq and Afghanistan as the first one, President Trump, to call them out for what they are, he's not going to repeat those lessons. And I think I've been very clear about that from the podium.
With questions surrounding the Strait of Hormuz, Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, speaking to that as well with cut number 5.
The Strait of Hormuz, there are many more vessels flowing through today than there were, as the president has arranged. The president's been clear to Iran, open it for business, or we have options, and we certainly do. And when you look at what the chairman laid out with the Navy industrial base, with coastal cruise missiles, with UAVs, with counter-mine capabilities, we've been focused from the beginning on attriting and defeating those capabilities and limiting their options. There's lots we're doing as well, some of which is known, some of which is not known, to set the conditions. And I think the president was clear this morning in his truth that there are countries around the world who ought to be prepared to step up on this critical waterway as well. It's not just the United States Navy. Last time I checked, there was supposed to be a big bad Royal Navy that could be prepared to do things like that as well. So he's pointing out this is an international waterway that we use less than most, in fact, dramatically less than most. So the world ought pay attention and be prepared to stand up. President Trump's been willing to do the heavy lifting on behalf of the free world to address this threat of Iran. It's not just our problem set going forward, even though we have done the lion's share of preparation to ensure that that strait will be open, which is an outcome the president's been very clear on.
And those negotiations underway as the secretary continued with Marco Rubio, Jared Kushner, to many others in the administration, including Steve Witkoff, trying to get to really an end of this conflict. But I'm being told now we will head over very soon to the White House on a gorgeous day in Washington, D.C., as the golden hour descends upon this golden era on Tuesday, March 31st. And a great shot there of the White House from the North Lawn. As we'll begin shortly, the signing of executive orders at the White House there. And President Trump, according to Rapid Response, focused on mail-in balloting specifically. So we look forward to those executive orders just on the other end of this, roughly a few seconds from now. So stick with us here on Right Side Broadcasting Network as we look forward to that. And the president releasing that information on the White House app, where you can see all of these executive orders in full. Also, any replays that take place at the White House for signing ceremonies to celebrations, amongst everything that happens there at the People's House, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And we know that last week the First Lady hosting that Be Best event, which we had a replay of from earlier on in the show. And those newly released photos of what the ballroom might look like in the coming months and years. Something very exciting to see as we toss it there to the Oval Office and the President.
Very proudly by us, having to do with voter integrity and mail-in ballots and stopping the massive cheating that's gone on. And so we're going to be signing an executive order. It's, I believe it's foolproof. And maybe it'll be tested, maybe it won't. I think it's very obvious what's said. And I'll ask Will Scharf to start off, attorney, a great talent, a very brilliant young man, and if you could discuss it, and then I'm going to ask Howard Lutnick to say a few words, and then I'm going to sign it, and we'll take a couple of questions. Okay, thank you.
Mr. President, as you said, you have in front of you an executive order that deals with a number of issues relating to election integrity. As you've consistently identified, two of the biggest problems we have with election integrity in this country are, one, inaccurate voter rolls that allow ineligible people to vote in various federal and state elections all over the country. And secondarily, you've consistently identified that vote by mail in this country has become rife with fraud. People returning ballots who aren't eligible to return ballots being sent to people who aren't confirmed to be eligible voters. So what this executive order is going to do is, one, we're going to take federal data. We're going to ensure that each state's election officials are provided with a comprehensive view of who the eligible voters in their jurisdiction actually are, allowing them to properly verify that everybody voting in their elections is legally able to vote. And then it orders the Postmaster General and the U.S. Postal Service to take bold new measures to verify that ballots both being sent to people are being sent to people who are eligible to vote, and then that ballots being returned are being properly returned by eligible voters only. And we believe that combined, the measures in this executive order will help secure elections in the future and ensure that the many abuses of our election system in the past aren't repeated in future elections.
Right. Howard?
So the fundamentals of our democracy are built on voter integrity, right? We all need it. You've said it time and time again. It's a total agreement amongst everybody. So here's the idea. The states, right, run these elections. They will, if they want to use the U.S. mail, the U.S. Postal Service, they're going to get a code, a barcode from the U.S. Postal Service, and they're going to put that on the envelope, and we will have one envelope per vote. None of this time where we have no idea, there's no observers to mail, there's no envelopes, there's no certainty. That's all going to go away, and what the president is doing today is he's going to make sure that mail-in ballots are safe, secure, and accurate, and will have a clear distinction. If you voted by mail, you will have it on the envelope. Obviously not on the ballot, but on the envelope. So we will know 1 million mail-in ballots. There'll be 1 million envelopes, and you'll be able to know exactly, correctly, that citizens voted.
And this came up with some great legal minds. They looked at the various documents and everything that was going on, because the cheating on mail-in voting is legendary. It's horrible what's going on. And it's very clearly covered, very, very clearly. So I think this will help a lot with elections. We'd like to have voter ID. We'd like to have proof of citizenship, and that'll be another subject for another time. We're working on that. You would think it would be easy. It's a 98% issue for Republicans. It's 86%. The thing just came out, a poll, and it's 86% with Republicans and Democrats, not leaders, because the leaders of the Democrats cheat. And the only people that don't want to do voter ID are people that cheat. There's no other reason for it. Proof of citizenship, they want to be able to cheat. There's no reason. They have all sorts of reasons, excuses, but it's all nonsense. They want to cheat. But the Democrats themselves are very high. It's a very positive, very, very good thing. The Democrat voters, the Democrat leaders, guys like Schumer, who are corrupt, they want to use it for cheating because their policy is so bad. Think of their policy, open borders for everybody, where people pour into our country from countries all over the world. Think of that. You look at, just take any issue, take anything, everything they have is so crazy. But the fact that they don't want to sign voter ID is another issue. It's a big issue. The fact that they don't have proof of citizenship, that they want transgender for everybody, that they want men in women's sports, So the only way, they assume, the only way they can win is to cheat. When you have men and women's sports, it's fine, it's wonderful. By the way, I worked very hard with the Olympic Committee and got that terminated for the Olympics. Very nice. Now, girls won't have to get beat up in the boxing ring like they did last time. If you saw those fights, two people that transitioned beat the hell out of everyone, out of other people, women. It was not a pretty sight to watch. So I worked very hard with the Olympic Committee, and we were able to get that out. So the Olympics will not have men and women's sports. But these are the things that they vote on, and that's why we're having a problem with them. They don't want ICE because they don't want people to be taken out of our country that are murderers, that are drug dealers, and that are people from mental institutions, the criminally insane. These are not nice people. And it's amazing. It's not even believable. If you go back 12, 13, 15, 20 years, that we even have to bring up a subject like there will be no trans mutilation. We don't want any transgender mutilization of our children. We don't want to have people pouring into our country from other countries all over the world, where prisons are opened up. All over the world, they're opened up, and they pour into our country. Murderers, 11,888 murderers. Think of that. We got many of them out. And by the way, Washington, D.C. just set a new record for safety. And I'm sure you know that because, Peter, when you walk down the street, you're not mugged lately. But it's a very safe city now. We took great pains to make it that way, but it actually happened pretty quickly. Within 3 months, it was good. Within 4 months, it was very good. Within 5 months, it was great. Now it's better than it ever was. And so Washington, D.C. is now considered a very, very safe city. We removed almost 4,000 people, just so you understand. You know, an interesting stat is that 2% of the people create more than 90% of the crime. And the good thing about that is when you get rid of 2%, it's not that many, you don't have a lot of crime. But Washington, D.C., we're very proud of. We're very proud of Memphis, Tennessee, and Louisiana. New Orleans is unbelievable. They had the safest, they just finished their Mardi Gras. They had the safest Mardi Gras in 58 years. The governor just called me, Jeff Landry just called me. He said, it's the safest Mardi Gras in 58 years because of us. And really, Chicago should call and say we'd like help. New York should call. They've had a lot of problems that we want help. Los Angeles should call and probably will. I think they have to. Now, we're going to have to do something when it comes World Cup time, and we're going to have to force ourselves upon them, which we have the right to do, because we don't want to have any crime. We don't want to have any problems for the Olympics and the World Cup, and even for 250. So with all of that, I'm very happy to be signing the voter integrity, and I think it's going to be really great. So if you don't mind, I will take some time and I'll make this signature absolutely perfect. So it looks very good. So far, so good. Okay, so that's a big deal. Very proud of it. And I don't know how it can be challenged. You'll probably challenge it. You may find a rogue judge. You get a lot of rogue judges, very bad people, very bad judges. But that's the only way that can be changed, and hopefully we'll win on appeal if it is. But I don't see how anybody can challenge it. I don't see how they can challenge it. And remember, it's about voter integrity. We want to have honest voting in our country, because if you don't have honest voting, you can't have really a nation, if you want to know the truth. Howard, I'll give that to you. Do you have any questions, please?
Yes, Mr. President. As you know, there's issues right now with DHS not being funded. Coast Guard is one of them, which is very important, especially with things going on in the Strait of Hormuz and here in our own country. You have the power to transfer control from the Department of Homeland Security to the Navy. Are you considering doing that?
No, I have a lot of powers to do things, and we use the powers where appropriate. Sometimes you don't have to use those powers. You know, they're a little severe, and then people accuse me of being a king. You see, the king, this is the new one. They've been trying for long time, including 4 years where I was out of office watching how badly this country was run. But they've been trying for a long time. You know what they really are doing is they want to have people coming into our country. They want to have open borders. They want to have criminals coming into our country. They want to have people unchecked, unvetted, coming into our country that you can look at them and say, this is not good. And that's what happened. They allowed 25 million people into our country. Many of those people were criminals. Many of them were drug dealers and murderers and people that were let out of mental institutions, prison populations. In some countries, the Congo, almost its entire prison population was allowed to come into the United States of America, the Congo. Many of the countries in South America, they emptied their prisons out into our country. This was under Biden. And nobody can tell me that's a good thing. And yet, they haven't changed their ways, because if they ever took power, they would open up the borders and they would let people pour in and destroy our country. So I have many powers, but I don't have to use them. I mean, only in severe cases. Yeah.
Mr. President, thank you. If you were able to sign the executive order to pay the TSA agents, why not do the same for FEMA and other agencies within the Department of Homeland Security?
Well, FEMA's different, because FEMA, I really believe that it's fine, but I think it's very inefficient. I think, we have smart governors, and one way to tell whether or not they're smart is how well they do. FEMA is a very expensive way of trying to put out a problem, but what I'd rather do is let the states do it and help them financially, but let the states do it. In other words, you'll have a hurricane in Florida, and people will come from Alaska. They haven't been to Florida. By the time they get used to it, problem can be solved. So I've never been a big fan of FEMA. I like to keep it local. I like to see governors and neighboring states help each other, as opposed to FEMA. FEMA is very expensive, and it really doesn't get the job done. In North Carolina, they did a terrible job until I became elected a second time, and I went and we had that tremendous water flood. There was a water hurricane, the likes of which nobody has seen. Land areas that never had lakes all of a sudden had lakes that you couldn't even get to it. And actually, we were helped by Elon Musk with with his great communication system that worked very well. We were very lucky, saved a lot of lives. But no, we got to do things right. And if you don't do them right, we shouldn't do them at all. Yeah, please.
Thank you, President Trump. After you said today that the Iran war may be ending soon, the stock market closed much higher. Do you have thoughts on that? And also, a judge just ordered you to stop construction of the ballroom. Are you planning to stop?
Well, we'll appeal that, but it's not. I don't know. It's basically. I wrote a part of his opinion, but basically he's saying I need congressional approval, and he's so wrong. This is being financed privately. It's a donation that's being given by companies, very rich people, so that for 150 years they've wanted a ballroom here. We're going to have the finest ballroom, I believe, anywhere in the world. And he said, we need congressional approval. Well, they don't get congressional approval from the White House. When they do things, they don't, especially when we didn't ask for any tax money. We have no tax. This is taxpayer free. We have no taxpayer putting up 10 cents. And I see right here, I just wrote it out. He said, we need congressional approval. Well, we built many things at the White House over the years. They don't get congressional approval when they build in the White House. It's totally separate. And especially when it's a donation. I mean, the ballroom is a donation. It's gotten great reviews. People love it. And presidents for 150 years have wanted this ballroom to be built, because when we have President Xi or other presidents or prime ministers coming, we don't have a big room. We have the East Room, which is very small. And he said we need congressional approval. He also said, but this is positive for us, I'm allowed, that meaning we are allowed to continue building as necessary to, let's see, what is that? To cover the safety and security of the White House and its grounds. So it says here very carefully, the safety and security have to be protected of the White House grounds. Well, that's what we're doing, because everything's bulletproof glass, et cetera, including the ballroom. And then it goes construction and all of the things necessary. It says personal safety of the president and his staff are a part of that. So it talks about that we're allowed to continue building. In other words, he put an order on, and even that he gave 14 days. We don't need it because that's what we're doing. He's allowed to continue building as necessary. And when it talks about the safety and security of the White House and its grounds. So just so you know, I wrote some of the thing down. We have a drone-proof roof, and it talks about the president and his staff. Well, we don't have a lot of bulletproof glass. The White House was built a long time ago. This has the highest level of, in fact, they call this the glass, it's bulletproof and it's ballistic proof. It's very thick. It's like that. And it's going 45 feet high, and every window is covered, every door is covered. The roof is drone proof. We have secure air handling systems. You know, bad things happen in the air if you have bad people. We have bio defense all over. We have secure telecommunications and communications all over. We have bomb shelters that we're building. We have a hospital and very major medical facilities that we're building. We have all of these things. So that's called, I'm allowed to continue building as necessary. So think of that, for the safety of the president. So we have all these things. So on that, we're okay. Where he's totally wrong, and he made, a statement that's fine, but I'll give you an example. You have right here $300 to $400 million, depending on finishes. If I use very expensive marble, if I use very expensive wall coatings, if I could bring it up to 400. Otherwise, we're right now ahead of schedule. We're under budget, but depending on finishes, from $300 to $400 million are being given by great people that you all know. Rich people, rich companies, big companies. They wanted to see this built because every president, literally for 150 years, has needed a space like this. Many of you have gone to the tent when we have a president of a big country or somebody being honored of great distinction, and they sit in a tent, and if it rains, you get soaked because the grass gets wet here very fast. It's a wet area. They used to call it a wetland, but I guess they don't do that for the White House, but it's essentially a wetland. And when it rains, you're in trouble. The water can go up to 3 to 4 inches over their shoes. It's not a good feeling for who was Prince Charles, who will be here next couple of weeks, is King Charles, who's a great guy. We don't want him to sit in a pool of water. And they've been wanting this for 150 years, and we're building it. And it's covered perfectly. What's not covered perfectly is the fact that the judge said we need congressional approval. Many things have been built in the White House. They haven't gotten congressional approval, especially when the money is being not put up by the taxpayer. The taxpayer's not putting up a dime. This building was necessary for many years by the fact that I've built many ballrooms, and I built many things, and I know how to build. I'm not building the Federal Reserve where the guy's spending $4 billion for a tiny little building. $4 billion for the Federal Reserve building. That contractor is going to be one of the richest men anywhere in the world after he finishes the Federal Reserve. The man is totally incompetent. Jerome, too late, Powell, is totally incompetent. And he's got to get out of office pretty fast. He's doing a bad job, but he's also done a bad job in shepherding the construction of that building. Do you know they ripped down a part of that building, and it was they say it's one of the nicest buildings in Washington. They ripped it down. So we feel, and we don't feel, we know that congressional approval is not necessary to put up a ballroom. And many things have been built on the site, they've never gotten congressional approval. And especially when the money is all put up. This is all donations by people that love our country, that love the White House, and that feel it was very necessary.
Mr. President, a couple of questions for you on Iran, but first one that affects Americans here at home, gas prices. Today they hit $4.
We have $4, yeah, and we have a country that's not going to be throwing a nuclear weapon at us in 6 months.
Of course, but Americans are feeling the effects in the interim of this
And they're also feeling a lot safer.
What is the plan to bring them back down?
All I have to do is leave Iran, and we'll be doing that very soon, and they'll become tumbling down. And stock prices were up today almost to a record because they know two things. Number one, we have a safe country. We had to take a little detour because we had a madman named Khomeini who sadly is no longer with us. And we had regime change already. We've knocked out one regime, then we knocked out the second regime. Now we have a group of people that are very different. They're much more reasonable, I think much less radicalized. We have had regime change. We're dealing with people that are much more rational, and it's amazing what we've done. We had to make a little detour. So when the stock market broke all records just a few weeks ago, when it hit 50,000 on the Dow, 7,000 on the S&P, I said to the American people, it's time that we have to make a little detour because we have a madman that wants a nuclear weapon. And if we didn't knock him out with a B-2 bomber, we would have a nuclear weapon right now. It would have been used before today. And you may not be standing there asking that question, okay? So I think we have a country that understands that. I see CNN did a poll and they talked about voters or MAGA voters, and my poll came out at 100%. Nobody covers that poll. They had another poll where it's at 92% approval. I think that the people understand it. We'll be leaving very soon, and if France or some other country wants to get oil or gas, they'll go up through the Strait and Hormuz Strait. They'll go right up there and they'll be able to fend for themselves. I think it'll be very safe, actually, but we have nothing to do with that. What happens to the Strait, we're not going to have anything to do with, because these countries, China will go up and they'll fuel up their beautiful ships and they'll leave and they'll take care of themselves. There's no reason for us to do it. We hit them hard. We got rid of a lot of the radicalized lunatics along the Strait. But if they want something, but I would say that within 2 weeks, maybe 3, we're hitting them very hard. Last night we knocked out tremendous amounts of missile-making facilities. As you probably read or wrote,
will be gone.
We knocked out. Excuse me.
Pardon me for interrupting. The U.S. will be gone or done with the war?
I think with 2 or 3 weeks.
Not 3 weeks. If it is,
we'll
3
leave
weeks,
because there's no reason for us to do this. Look, problem with the Strait, a guy can take a mine, drop it in the water, and say, "Oh, it's unsafe." It's not like you're taking out an army or you're taking out a country, or they can drop it. Or you can take a machine gun from the shore and shoot a few bullets at a ship, or maybe an over-the-shoulder missile, small missiles. That's not for us. That'll be for France. That'll be for whoever's using the Strait. But I think when we leave, probably that's all cleared up. Today I heard tremendous numbers of ships were sailing through. We're negotiating with them right now. We have had regime change. Now, regime change was not one of the things I had as a goal. I had one goal. They will have no nuclear weapon. And that goal has been attained. They will not have nuclear weapons. But we're finishing the job. And I think within maybe 2 weeks, maybe a couple of days longer to do the job. But we want to knock out every single thing they have. Now, it's possible that we'll make a deal before that, because we'll hit bridges, and we've hit some. We'll hit some bridges. Got a couple of nice bridges in mind. But if they come to the table, that'll be good. But it doesn't matter whether they come or not. We've set them back. It'll take 15 to 20 years for them to rebuild what we've done to them. They have no Navy. They have no military. They have no Air Force. They have no telecommunications. They have no anti-aircraft systems. They have no leaders. Their leaders are all gone. That's why we have regime change. We have nice new leaders. Peter?
Thank you, President Trump. You talked about how the ballroom needs to have a drone-proof roof.
Right.
There have been drone swarms flying over sensitive military installations in the U.S. over the last couple weeks. The reports are they don't look commercial and they can't be jammed. Is this another country's military?
I don't think so. We have a great system of. Do you notice that over the last 4 or 5 days you haven't seen very many drone hits, right? We have some unbelievable anti-drone weaponry that's incredible. But you want to have, like, for instance, the ballroom. We have a very powerful steel roof with other things in it. And you want to have, if you're building a building for security, just like his judge's opinion, you have to have security for the president and his staff. You need heavy, strong ceilings. You need seriously thick, bulletproof, ballistic glass. And we have that. Other buildings don't. You know, fairly modern buildings don't have that. They have roofs that are weak and they have regular glass windows.
There was this incident down in Barksdale, though, where apparently a whole swarm of drones for a couple hours was over the flight line. There's a lot of really important planes down there.
Yeah.
How concerned are you that this is some
Well, I'm not
other country
concerned.
just
Yeah.
scoping out?
Yeah.
where
I
we
know
have all
about
our
it.
stuff?
They've checked that out and they've gotten to the bottom of it. You know, you have a lot of people now that fly these things all over the place, and we're coming down very hard on them. But we're able to take them out militarily. We're able to take them out very easily. And a new thing is lasers. You know, the lasers are becoming very, very effective. You hit a drone and it melts in air. It's a beautiful thing to see. If it's coming at you, having a laser is a very nice thing. But we have, there are methods of defending against drones. I mean, the advantage from the standpoint of defense is they don't go very fast relative to a F-22, that plane right over there. They go very slow. They can be also shot out of the air by, you know, high quality aircraft, which we have more than anybody ever had.
And there was a viral video this week. I don't know if you saw it, of Army helicopters hovering near Kid Rock's house in Nashville. Did you see that
I
video?
didn't see it, no, but I'm sure they had a good time.
Well, so the Army just said the crews of these helicopters have been suspended. What do you think of that?
Well, it depends. Are they? Well, they probably shouldn't have been doing it. Yes, you're not supposed to be playing games, right? But I'd take a look at it. They like Kid Rock. I like Kid Rock. Maybe they were trying to defend him. I don't know.
Does Iran have to make a deal? Does Iran have to make a deal for the U.S. to end its operation in Iran? And
No,
have you spoken?
no.
And have
Iran
you
doesn't
spoken
have to-
directly with
Iran
anyone
doesn't
in
have
Iran?
to make a deal. No. Yeah, I've spoken to a lot of people. It's a new regime. They are much more accessible. They are right. You know, they said, we have a present for you, Mr. President, out of respect.
I know,
And they
but
said,
you
wait a
don't like me,
minute,
what would
you
you
want me
do?
to answer the question? You're a fresh person. You know, we've had a lot of problems with you, haven't we? No, they don't. You asked me a question. No, they don't have to make a deal with me. When we feel that they are, for a long period of time, put into the Stone Ages, and they won't be able to come up with a nuclear weapon, then we'll leave. Whether we have a deal or not, it's irrelevant. Now, it's possible that we'll have a deal because they want to make a deal. They want to make a deal more than I want to make a deal. But in a fairly short period of time, we'll be finished. They will not be able to do a nuclear weapon for years. And when they are ready, maybe in a long time from now, able to do a nuclear weapon, you'll have a president that will be like me in that he will go there and he'll knock the hell out of them again because they cannot have a nuclear weapon. They are very radicalized people. They're very sick leaderships. And I will say, though, that the leadership we're dealing with now, the new regime, because we have a new regime, and the new regime is much better than the past. Yeah.
Mr. President, the Iranian government threatened a bunch of U.S. companies today in the region, including Google, Apple.
With what? What did they threaten them with? PB guns? Or
Well, that's a
they
good
don't have much
question.
left to threaten.
My question for you is: is the U.S.
I mean,
talking
what
to
did
those
they?
companies?
You
and
made
how
a
do you react
said.
to that?
What did they threaten them with? I don't know. Tell me, how did they threaten them?
Well, all I know is that they threatened him, sir.
What does that mean?
Fair enough.
They said something
Do
nasty.
is the government in touch with these companies? Are you helping to backstop them?
You don't even know what the threat was. What was the threat? I haven't heard it. What was the threat?
I'll get back
Did
to
they
you.
say they're going to blow them up? They're going to hit them.
Is
They're
that
not.
Iran's
You know what they're not
access
going to do? They're not going to hit them with a nuclear weapon.
Is it something you're concerned about, sir?
No.
Iran's IRGC issues a warning that they will target 18 U.S. technology companies if the U.S. continues targeted assassinations of Iranian leaders beginning on April 1st. Those companies included
really?
NVIDIA, Apple, Microsoft.
Most of those
Google.
people are dead already. Yeah, Peter?
I got one. Your son Eric posted a photo of what will be the Trump Presidential Library.
Yeah.
It's a huge skyscraper. Is that all a library? What else is going in there?
Well, it's a library. It's a museum, a library. It's a presidential. But I wouldn't start it till I'm out of office. I don't believe in building libraries or museums. It's really like the Barack Hussein Obama one in Chicago. In not a good location, and it's a very unattractive building that's seriously late and seriously over budget. I think you're going to see a great one here, and it'll go up on time, on budget, best location in Miami. They say it's the best block in Miami, and the state worked with us.
Will people live in the floors?
No, it's going to be most likely a hotel. You know, just concept. Could be office, but it's most likely going to be a hotel with a beautiful building underneath and a 747 Air Force One in the lobby, which is going to be a trick.
And the Supreme Court tomorrow is going to hear arguments about your executive order trying to get rid of birthright citizenship.
And I'm going.
You're going to go to the Supreme Court tomorrow.
I do believe
and just sit there and listen.
Because I have listened to this argument for so long, and this is not about Chinese billionaires or billionaires from other countries who all of a sudden have 75 children or 59 children in one case or 10 children becoming American citizens. This was about slaves. And if you take a look, slaves, we're talking about slaves from the Civil War. And if you take a look at when it was filed, all of this legislation, all of this, everything having to do with birthright citizenship, it was at the end of the Civil War. The reason was it had to do with the babies of slaves and the protection of the babies of slaves. It didn't have to do with the protection of multi-millionaires and billionaires wanting to have their children get an American citizenship. It is the craziest thing I've ever seen. It's been so badly handled by legal people over the years. If you look at the original birthright citizenship papers, they all happened right after the Civil War. The reason was it had to do with the babies of slaves. And hopefully it's going to say, because our country is being scammed. We're getting all of these people, they're selling the rights to them. People are making a living, a big living, getting hundreds of thousands and even millions of dollars from bringing people in and saying, congratulations, your whole family is going to be a citizen of the United States of America. That's not what it was for. It wasn't for billionaires bringing people in or family in. It was for the children of slaves. And what you really have to do, and I don't think the lawyers talk about it as much, look at when the Civil War ended and look at the date of when this was enacted. Okay.
Have you ever been to the Supreme Court before? Is this going to be the first time going to the Supreme Court?
No, I went once before. The opening of the Supreme Court in the last administration.
And which justices will you be listening for most closely?
I love a few of them. I don't like some others. And you know, you say what you want, but you have the ones that were appointed by Barack Hussein Obama and Biden. I don't care how good your case is. You could have the greatest case ever. They're going to rule against you. They always do. And it's not supposed to be that way. Now, the Republicans tend to be very different. They want to show how honorable they are. So a man can appoint them and they can rule against him. It's so proud of it. We're so proud we ruled against Trump. We're so proud. We're above it. There are those that say that's wonderful, and there are those that say they're so stupid. But the Democrats never fail at one thing. When Barack Hussein Obama or when Biden appoints somebody, they go along that line. You can have the greatest case in history. And almost, I guess I have to say almost, maybe I don't have to say it, almost without fail, those people, 4 of them, sometimes 5 of them, but 4 of them will vote against you. You don't have a chance. You don't have a chance. And that's not what the court system is. Now, the Republican appointees tend to go, and this has been long before me, this has been for many years. Some people would call it stupidity, some people would call it disloyal, some people would say they're right in doing it. And I don't mind being right, but the other side almost never does it. Almost. I think you could find maybe a couple of instances, almost never does. When a Democrat appoints a judge, and I'm talking about judges, not just justices, you go before some of these Democrat judges in Washington, D.C., and you don't have a chance. That's why I gave pardons to hundreds of people that were so badly treated, having to do with J6. Yeah.
President Trump. Next.
Oh, do you have a question? Yeah. Let's go. I didn't see you over there.
Sorry.
You've been so nice. Here we go. Now she's gonna hit me with a bad one. Go ahead.
On the Save America Act, Mr. President, do you still think it's going to pass? Were you signing?
I don't know. It's the craziest thing. The Democrats are totally against it. Again, they're unified. I think maybe you would have Fetterman, who I have a lot of respect for, but the Democrats are unified against it. and you need Democrat votes. Unless you do something smart called the filibuster, terminate the filibuster, which they should do. Republicans should do that, but there are a couple of Republicans that maybe they're not so smart, because the Democrats will do it in the first day in office, maybe the first hour. It's a question, will it be the first hour or the first day? So who can believe that a person, you can't even get it to the floor, that a person wouldn't vote for, think of it, for citizenship, proof of citizenship, for voter identification. And we also added one, we added mail-in ballots. Mail-in ballots with exceptions for the military, for people that are sick, people that are traveling, for the disabled. We have very generous exceptions. But who would believe that that would be possible not to get those things to vote for? And then we added, best of Trump, we added no men and women sports. Different subject, but we added that. And we said no transgender mutilization of our children. These are all 90, 95, maybe 98 in some cases, maybe 99 in terms of those first two. If you talk about the first two, I think at 98, 99% voter identification, right? Don't you think it's nice with picture? Wouldn't you think it's nice when the Democrats had their convention? I remember it so well. You had to have identification to get into the arena, and they had a card that was bigger than most of their chests, and it had everything. It had their picture. And if you didn't have that card, they threw you away. In New York City recently, we had a big snowstorm. Mayor Mandemi he called out for people to shovel snow, but you had to give identification with picture. If you didn't have, and it wasn't one identification, you had to have two. So to shovel snow in New York City, you need identification, double with picture. But to vote, which is maybe our most cherished thing, you don't need. They don't want voter ID, the Democrats, because they want to cheat. The problem is we need their votes. In order to get it, you need their votes. And look, they know their policy is so bad. They know that if they gave those votes, they might never win another election. So they're fighting like hell. They're actually fighting for their survival, because their policy, the Republicans have great policy, smart policy, strong borders, low interest rates, low taxes. We just gave you the largest tax cut in history. All these great policies, we want a strong military. Look at our military. We have the strongest military. Look what happened in Venezuela. It was so incredible. People said the greatest military maneuver they've ever seen. Look what's happening in Iran. We're totally unchecked. Everything's been bombed out. They have no anti-aircraft protection. They have no nothing. They don't have anything. Look at our military. The Democrats don't want that. And when I read the fake New York Times, you take a look at it, it's like, oh, they're putting up a good fight. They're not putting up a fight. They're not even shooting at us, okay? We have planes are just ruling the sky. We have airplanes. Those two. We have airplanes. Nice, right? Lincoln with a little modern touch. The great Benjamin Franklin with a little modern touch. But think of it. They are roaming the skies over Tehran. They're not even being shot at because their equipment's been totally decimated. They have nothing to shoot. They have no Navy, they have no anything. And just think about this. They have no Navy. They have no military. They have no nothing. They're losing. They admit they're losing. They're begging to make a deal. And if you read the fake New York Times, a corrupt newspaper, where I'm suing them and I think I should do very well, but you would almost think, who's winning? It's so fraudulent. But just to finish up with the New York Times, if you read the New York Times prior to my election victory, including the first one, and the second one too, I won 3 times. I won 3 times convincingly. But let's go to the third victory. If you read the New York Times, you would say, oh, Trump's going to lose. But I won in a landslide. I won the popular vote. I won the Electoral College in a massive number, right? Massive. I won the counties 86% of the counties are won. All of these different things. Winning the popular vote for a Republican is, pretty amazing. But if you read the New York Times for months and months and months, you were hearing, oh, Trump is doing so badly. We have to straighten out our media. The reason their circulation is way down, the New York Times circulation, has gone way down. Washington Post is almost extinct. The papers that are being dishonest, papers generally, people don't believe the media. And to finish, I got 93% bad publicity. Some people say 97, but between 93 and 97. A person that gets 97% of bad stories, maybe Caroline's doing a poor job, I don't know. She's my representative. You're doing a terrible job. Should we keep her? I think we'll keep her. But I get 93 to 97% bad press, fake press, all fake. I won in a landslide. When you get 93 to 97 bad stories, bad press, and you win in a landslide, you know what that says? People don't believe the press. And when people don't believe the press, that's a very bad thing for our country. And when you look at, let's say, the New York Times or the Washington Post, the stories are so fake. Wall Street Journal, too, a lot of bad stories. I don't know what happened to them, but they're bad. Their circulation went way down. Wall Street Journal, I don't know if you saw the numbers that came out yesterday. New York Times, way down. Wall Street Journal, way down. Washington Post, #1, way down. Because people don't believe them anymore. And until they get, it's not the paper, it's not the big, it's that they have no credibility anymore, which is a very sad thing for our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
And breaking news, President Trump will be at the Supreme Court tomorrow morning, so be sure to catch that coverage. As we thank you for joining us for an executive order which will make a big difference across America in regards to mail-in balloting. And always wonderful to hear from the 45th and 47th President of the United States, especially from the Oval Office. And right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, we give you that unbridled access as your go-to live events space for everything in the federal city and outside of Washington, D.C. as well, with our rallies as your go-to live desk. RSBN is viewer supported. RSBnetwork.com/donate. You may also send a check or money order to 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344. It's the loveliest village on the plains, Auburn, Alabama. 36830, 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, Auburn, Alabama. 36830. Thank you for your support of new media, especially on the right side of history, right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Also, thank you to mypillow.com/RSBN. The warehouse moving sale. Save up to 80% right now if you're looking to make a move with those great MyPillow products. Over 2,000 available right there at mypillow.com/RSBN. Call today. Do not delay. 800-836-7566. mypillow.com/RSBN. Code RSBN. Easy to remember. And thank you to Mike Lindell. He's a candidate for governor of Minnesota, where he makes all of these high-quality made-in-America products, from the My Slippers, the Giza Dream Sheets, to my coffee, which I have right here. Good, literally 24/7. Oh, it smells fantastic. You can smell it right through the bag. And also the MyPillow 1.0 and 2.0 originals, as well as now the warehouse moving sale. 80% off with code RSBN. He's the master marketer, as President Trump puts it. Speaking of Mike Lindell, maybe they'll have a TV show when it's all said and done. mypillow.com/RSBN. Thank you, Mike, for your support on the right side of history. And thank you to all of you for joining us for nearly 3 hours of coverage this afternoon and evening. For all of my colleagues on the right side of history, thank you for tuning into Right Side Broadcasting Network, your #1 space for live political events right here in the United States of America. I'm Robert McNeely. We'll see you again tomorrow. In the meantime, good night, God bless, and take care of yourselves.